Oh, sorry.
Okay, let's go into this, Tanya.
So we're,
with this, yeah,
we're live now, just so you know.
Live,
people
yeah,
are
so we
coming
probably won't do too much round robin either.
Yep.
And let's do a quick just hello to everyone and let's get into clinic, because
Yep.
my aim is to try and keep it to about an hour. We've only got 3 cases today.
Fine.
Okay, so over to you and I'll shut up for a minute.
Then people are just coming into the room.
Okay.
Just give them a minute. There's lots of people in the room today.
Okay, are we unmuting them and everything?
I haven't unmuted everybody yet, but let's just get everybody into the room before I unmute everybody. Hello, everybody. So there's quite a few of you in the room today for clinic. I am going to unmute you all and give you all the ability to mute yourselves and unmute yourselves. What I do ask of you is please to mute yourself unless you're speaking. If you are speaking, please make sure that you don't have any phones going off and things like that. Otherwise, nobody can hear each other. We're not going to do a big round robin today just because we're on a short time frame. But when it is your turn to talk, or you have something to say, just say who you are if you haven't said who you are yet and where you currently are and what kind of level student you're at. So I'm just going to unmute everybody as Som starts talking, and I'm just going to hand it over to Som.
Okay, am I live?
Yeah, you're on.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Good morning, everybody. Hello, thank you, and welcome, and good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining us today. Oops. Welcome to the clinic. We're going to start doing these more often, as we've all agreed, and we're going to try and limit it to 3 or 4 cases every time. The layout will be, obviously, you send me the cases 2 or 3 days in advance, because I don't always sit down and tidy up the slides. I have my own clinics to run as well. And then we discuss a few with something to take away, and then we could do this every week. That enables us to continuously learn rather than waiting a month. Also, it allows newer, fresher patients to come in, which gives us all a variety of cases from which we can learn. So that's what we're going to do. We've got 3 people today to talk. Thank you for sending the slides to me as well. And for those who don't yet have these PowerPoint slides to fill in, if you wish to take cases, I can send them to you separately. Drop me a personal WhatsApp later. When you fill in the slides, though, please be aware of the amount of content of information you're filling, because it's an abbreviated form of your case. Because otherwise what happens is, when I screen share, you will not be able to see all of the information. And a quick way to test that yourselves at home is go to the preview slideshow button on your PowerPoint. And if you cannot see on your screen capture, you've written too much text. That's a very quick guidance housekeeping rule as well. We are going to introduce everybody. They're going to talk through the cases. We won't do around the houses on the attendees today, because that took half an hour last week, 2 weeks ago.
Just to say, Som, for those that do have a question while you're busy doing things, remember there's the Q&A box at the bottom. Pop your questions in the bottom there. And if you guys want to chat amongst yourselves in the chat, you're welcome to do that. That's in the written typed chat box at the bottom. Yeah, and if you aren't talking, please make sure that your mic is muted. And yeah, because I've got a few unmuted mics, because I've given everybody the ability to talk now. Okay. So yeah, so just really important, if you're not talking, mute your mic.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Tanya. And so what we'll do, we're going to introduce each student and they'll talk through their case. We'll give them airtime to talk. As some of you may be familiar, I'll ask some questions and shape around the case that way. Then we'll pause. Then we'll also ask people who may want to contribute, who are listening in, to give further suggestions, because this is for shared learning. This is this environment. It's not to scrutinize or put somebody on the spot for their case. As practitioners, everyone's in their own right to choose their own methods and approach. Our job is to simply guide and say, well, have you considered this? It's as simple as that. So without further ado, the layout of today, we've got about 20 minutes per case. If it takes another 5 or so minutes longer, so be it. Let's do fewer cases more thoroughly, rather than trying to cram in 7 or 8 cases where people who are new don't have the time to digest and follow the case along. So we've got Veronica, Varsha, and Mariana speaking today with their 3 cases. Veronica, Varsha, Mariana, can you just confirm that you're online and can hear and can speak back?
Yes.
Who was that? Veronica?
Yeah, however, I've got 2 cases to discuss.
We've only got time for 3 at the moment, Veronica, so just bear
Okay.
with us on that. Varsha, are you live?
Morning, Som. I'm here.
Morning, Varsha, thank you. And Mariana, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you.
Morning.
Welcome. Shall we crack on? Right, Veronica, we're over to yourself. And before we get into your case, that was a bit texty, so I'll try to copy it across to 2 or 3 extra slides. So as you talk through the case,
which case are you talking
we'll come to
about,
this one right
actually?
now. This very first one you sent.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So as you talk through it, as you can see at the bottom, it's cut off there. So I'll try and move next slide to keep in time with your speaking. So over to you. Fire away. Bring us in the picture of this person.
Lady, 45 years of age, works as an osteopath, Irish origin from very religious family. She's one of 7 kids and she was the 7th one. So that tells you she's malnourished by default. Mother absent emotionally, father absent because of alcoholism, lots of alcoholism in the family. She at present suffers from fainting when suddenly stops during physical activity. She has cold hands and feet. She has a wart which is raised above the surface on her right hand, on a forefinger of her right hand. This comes back every 10 years. She suppresses it with normal, she has it frozen or, you know, however they deal with it. She's dairy, wheat and sugar intolerant, so sensitivity. She basically approached me because she feels she has trouble with boundaries, saying no to people, and she would like to be more assertive. So for her, this is purely mental, emotional. Okay. So I started to talk to her and found out from basically her. Can we get the timeline up, please? I started to talk to her and found out that she was made to work from the age of 11 in a restaurant, where at 13 she witnessed her employer threatening his own daughter with a knife. She reports being frozen on spot, sheer panic inside. Took her 2 years to say that to her mother, that she don't want to work there and what has happened. Mother A didn't believe her, and she basically made her go back to work, and there was a relationship breakdown with her mother. At 17 years old, she suffered mental breakdown from exam stress. At 18, she went to university and her mother chosen a course for her, so she felt trapped, didn't want to study that at all. At 19, she then had another mental breakdown and she overdosed on paracetamol on something else. But because she was also on iron tablets, it kind of failed, she said. As a get well, she got a horse, and subsequently she suffered a lot of falls from the horse. She works as an osteopath despite not liking the course. You can see sport and physiology, so she has developed. She moved to England, started to study what she wanted. She worked a lot, but it came with a cost for her because she needed money for the study, and mother lent her money and kind of thought she owns her again. And she was forced with to live with her abusive and controlling aunt. So she has history of abusing relationships. She then moves to Milton Keynes, meets her husband, marries him. The day she married him, he absolutely changed into, that's what she's saying, into OCD controlling guy. He had liver problems. He had some kind of, he was yellow basically, just by the way. She felt suicidal then, hated going home, the husband was throwing her regularly out, so she was basically homeless. Her husband tampered with her car, and that was basically a point where she said, okay, I'm going to draw the line here. Can we get the rest of the timeline up, please?
No, it won't fit now. So this is what I'm saying. So
okay,
we've got a picture here that's going on. So let's.
So she's then followed with another abusive relationship where she attracted a stalker. You know, she's no longer in that relationship. She lives on her own and is basically happy with her life. She says, first time in my life, I'm actually happy. You know, I do a lot of gardening. I do run my practice. And so family history, father's side, alcohol addictions, high blood pressure, heart condition. Mother's side, alcohol and tobacco addictions, liver cancer, osteoporosis, hip replacement, heart attack, and COPD.
So what do we see going on in her family that she's inherited or acquired?
So she's got syphilitic miasm inherited.
Okay. What I'm also seeing on the mother's side, she's got addictive miasms. Okay. We've got cancer there as a miasm, but
Yeah.
addiction is also a miasm because this lady is addicted to punishment. But we'll come about that later. Okay. So shall we go backwards to go through the rest of the mental emotions, or do you want to go forward to the analysis? Because if it's a mental emotion case, we're not really too bothered about the physical generals because she's come saying she wants help with boundaries, assertiveness, self-worth, and self-love. You could almost prescribe just on that alone. The timeline helps us to see the picture to see the pattern of lack of self-worth there, right?
Yeah.
And dependency and being bullied, being abused, being emotionally blackmailed. That's the picture. So shall we go on? So we've got to split this over 3 or 4 slides for you. Sorry.
So mentally she looks for, I put here, she was born with inheriting syphilitic miasm, which then became active through, you know, loss of control, prolonged fear and prolonged unhappiness, and became active when she attempted suicide, because obviously syphilitic miasm is all about destruction. She's then, through being suppressed in the relationships and in life in general, she puts herself, I believe, in active carcinogenic state, miasm, because she's got a lot of carcinosin traits. She looks for external approval. She has trouble saying no. She's a very nice lady. You know, she's such a nice lady.
Yeah. She's what we call a people pleaser.
That's it, yeah.
Okay. So we're getting a picture of this person. I'm just going to try and see if we can get to, oh, there we go. Let's look at your rubrics and see, well, let's talk about the method that you've used. Talk us through that.
I've used the miasmatic method or combination of an etiological method because, as you said, we're not really bothered about any pathologies. We just want to look at mental emotionals.
Yeah.
And I believe the carcinogenic miasm needs to be dealt with in the first place. Otherwise, she's going to end up having cancer.
Okay.
So I've put some rubrics I felt were appropriate. You know, obviously she's got suppressed menses, but so that's to reflect the suppression. Coldness of hands, but mind, anger, general ailments from suppressed, because obviously she wasn't able to express her anger for a very long time.
Yeah.
Mind, shock, emotional, mental. I felt that the way she came back to what happened to her at 13 years of age when she witnessed the, knife incident was very much still alive for her. She's milk intolerant. She can't say no, so my no cannot say. She has ailments when she gets excited. That's the fainting. She has unrefreshed sleep. She tries to please everyone. She fears of cancer. That's what brought her to me in the first place. You know, we were talking about my mother-in-law having cancer, and she said, "Oh, I'm really scared of that. I really want to do homeopathy." Disappointed love is to reflect all of her relationships and obviously her mother. And she obviously dwells on it, so I felt that's a rubric to mention.
Right. Let's just focus on the rubrics for a second. Thank you for that. Well done. What we've got, there's also, for those of people who don't have vision, this is a snapshot because we have a lot of newer students joining us as well. We have the Murphy's Repertory book, and this is why these are all referenced there. There's chapters there: female, hands, mind, food, etc., that you can look into. For those that have the software, that's a way, section by section, to look into it. The software is exactly the same as Murphy's 3rd edition. Please don't inundate me with the 4th edition conversations. We've had that one. So that's good to see. However, you can also rank, when you're selecting your rubrics, you can move them up or down. So for clarity, you can rank them in mind, physical generals, etc. before you repertoire. That's an option to do. Well, if you get the software, you can play around with it. A couple of other rubrics that I want to talk about. A few I want to point out here that are very nice to see that you've got on there. I love this one about mind, no, cannot say. Because we talk about a lot of people pleasers in life, and that's a good rubric to remember. And it's quite simple to find. So I like the fact that you've got there. And the other one, mind, please, others desire too. I like the disappointment from love, mind dwells on disappointments. Okay, great. A couple of other additional ones that can be considered. Something right in the mind chapter, abuse, ailments from domination. Right, so these ailments from humiliation. These are 2 or 3 extra rubrics that we can look on. Another one potentially, not just for this case, and the reason I comment is to help all of our cases when we leave this clinic. Mind, confidence lacking. Because sometimes when we fear lack of self-worth, it knocks our confidence. And you can look at rubrics there. This is for the community that are listening in right now. And these are other rubrics that can help us on the mental emotional. I do like the fact that you focus mainly on the mental emotional, which is, it's a mental emotional case. So that's absolutely fine. So, right. So based on that, you've done your repertorising. You've got your 2 or 3 key remedies. Talk us through your prescription.
So my asthmatically are prescribed carcinosin 10 and 1 pill in the morning.
Okay.
To deal with partly the suppression, but also the miasm mainly. Etiological method, I think there's lots of anger. Mm-hmm. So that Staphylococcus aureus will release that. Natmur will help with the grief of the disappointed love.
Right, let me just pause you there, Veronica.
Yeah.
I've just noticed something here. Again, this is for the audience watching as well. Some of us may know the numbers after the remedies, ladies and gentlemen, are the remedy rates in the Sullish machine. If you don't have a Sullish machine, ignore the numbers. If you have a different machine like McGurk, ignore the numbers. So when you look at these numbers, 57755 after carcinosin, that is just the rate for that remedy. So please don't get sidetracked by the numbers next to Veronica's prescriptions. Sorry, just thought I'd add that in.
So Staphylococcus aureus for anger, Natmur for grief of losing, the relationships and her mother's love, and I believe because she's been through prolonged periods of fear, her adrenals are working, and stress, her adrenals are working overtime. So I believe that she should be on organ support for that. I've done the Ellen's breakdown. Plus added cortisol. Ellen has cortisone there, but I've added cortisol to it. Yep. Narayani digestive and nutrition to help her digest, because when we are in prolonged fear or stress, basically because of the hormones we're producing, the digestion is impaired, and also when we enter shock. So that's to help with that, because obviously she's constipated at the moment. That was one of her physical particulars. She only goes every 2nd or 3rd day. So I need to get that going, because whatever toxicity might be in her body, and I'm talking not just about chemicals, but emotions, needs to free flow. And for that, the one outlet is bowel opening. And then chilodonium, cholesterol, berberis, that's for the liver, gallbladder, and kidneys, because kidneys are fear, I think. I've wrote it down.
Yep, kidneys are fear.
Can you move it down a bit?
It doesn't go down.
Okay, kidneys are, okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, justification, we didn't need to show because you're talking it through, so it's fine with that.
Oh, okay.
Just a quick question going back up to the top there. You've got the etiological method. You've got Staphylococcus aureus and Natmur.
Yeah.
Is that 11M you're going to give her as a dose?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So not 10M, but 11M.
11. I just feel that it's better to go a bit higher or lower. It could be 9M as well. I just didn't want it to match carcinosin. Okay. So I'm sending a clear message of one and the other one. Okay. Not, so it doesn't get muddled.
Perfect. Okay, I think that's a lovely prescription. Nice to hear you justify what you're doing and why. Let me just give a bit more tutorial to all of us and add a bit more physiology to it as well. With carcinosin, people, we all know carcinosin is the #1 remedy for unsuppressing things from the past and emotions. That's a very, very good one. It often goes hand in hand with Staphylococcus aureus, but in my mind, the way I separate the two, Staphylococcus aureus is what I use, is great to help people be able to stand up for themselves. That's the difference. So when people have had abusive relationships, have been dominated, been controlled, Staphylococcus aureus helps unsuppress that. It doesn't make them aggressive, but it makes them want to be able to make a decision and say, you know what, I'm not going to tolerate this bullshit anymore. I need to do that. It doesn't mean that they argue with their partner. Something inside them changes. And when their mindset and their resolve, that's the word, it strengthens their resolve to say, I'm not going to take this crap anymore. I know I need to make a change in my life. That's what Staphylococcus aureus does. What carcinosin does is unsuppresses the feelings of self-worth, where they're able to tap into the Staphylococcus aureus state to say, actually, I'm worth better than this. I don't need to take this. Carcinosin can be given separately to Staphylococcus aureus for people who help animals, food shelters, charity work. She's in a healing art. She's an osteopath. Even though she didn't like her career, she ended up still helping other people. All her life, this person has had her decisions made for her, emotionally blackmailed, that if you don't do it, I'll withdraw your money. So either you do the course I want you to do, or you're stuck. So she's been controlled and dominated. And so her addictive personality was, hello? Hello, is that somebody who wanted to contribute on the course? No? Okay. So that's the situation with this patient. It's a conversation I had with somebody a few days ago as well, that quite rightly you've addressed the adrenals because she's under a lot of stress. And we have this axis called the HPA axis, hypothalamus pituitary adrenal gland. People who know their science and anatomy know that they're linked together, and they're a feedback mechanism from one to the other. And the hypothalamus and the pituitary are master glands, and they're situated in our brain. They do a cascade of events and send other hormones rushing around the body to help us control and respond to the environment. The reason these two glands are controlled in our brain is because our brain is where we sense the environment. Mental, emotional, nervous stimuli, environmental stimuli, we sense it through our nerves. We feed it back to our brain. That tells our hypothalamus and pituitary which hormones or precursor hormones to send. They cascade down to the adrenals. Up goes the adrenaline, up goes the cortisol and cortisone, and histamine if that's the case, and everything else, such as renin, angiotensin, and aldosterone. And this is a whole cascade of events. But it starts in the pituitary and hypothalamus, which is why we always try and focus on the mental emotionals, because that's how we sense the world. So when we say the adrenals are always affected, and for those of us who haven't yet done the anatomy and physiology and how they're linked, that's because they're controlled by the pituitary and the hypothalamus. So the brain sends a cascade of hormones down, kicks the adrenals into gear, they pump out all the hormones, we get stressed. We do that for a long, long time. The adrenals get adrenal fatigued, where we just don't have the energy to respond anymore. And that then cascades down to other diseases like chronic fatigue syndrome, adrenal fatigue, fibromyalgia, early menopause, suppressed menses, suppressed periods, because the adrenals also stimulate the ovaries. The pituitary also releases something called follicle stimulating hormone, which affects estrogen and progesterone. So when we got things like this, menses general suppressed, it's no wonder. Or her hormones are all over the shop because she's continuously stressed. And when we're stressed and we've got ailments from grief, remedies like Natmure are highly rated, and Natmure is a great one for suppressed menses. When you look it up in your repertory, this comes up. This is the physiological reason why, the endocrinological reason of how the cascade comes. I hope that makes sense. If anyone's got questions about that, by all means, we can discuss it on the Johanna group later on. But brilliant, well done. You happy with that, Veronica?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to take a breather. Any questions, comments, or observations from our audience anywhere on this case? Let's just pause for a minute.
Yes, I have a question. This is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hey, you were going to say something about addictive personality, but then there was some interruption, and I was just wondering if you could just continue and say what you were going to say about it.
Yeah, well, okay, the addictive personalities, if we go back to this case, what Veronica's shown us here is that the father's side has alcohol addictions.
Mothers as well.
The mother's side,
Yeah.
say again?
both sides.
I'm just getting to that.
Yeah.
The father side is alcohol addictions. The mother side is alcohol and tobacco addictions. So we know that this miasm has been inherited. Now, an addictive miasm is part of the destructive miasm, which is syphilitic. High blood pressure, heart condition, these are all destructive. Osteoporosis, these destroy the body. So this miasm is very active. But the addictive quality, where the brain is addicted to stimulants, one, to numb and hide things. She's come from a family where they don't know how to deal with emotions. They hide it, they numb it out with booze and with tobacco, etc. They destroy
And religion, because,
religion.
you know, religion,
So,
some things are not being spoken about.
now, there's another rubric that you can look at, mind, in Murphy's, mind, religious affectations. Okay, so affected by religion. So if we look at these are all restrictions or guidance, call it what you will, but it's all done to control us. If you don't do this, you're a sinner. If you don't do this, you're no good to us. If you don't do this, we'll withdraw your money. These are all ways to manipulate a person. So when a child is born this way, and as a young girl, she's scared. As a teenager, she witnessed an employer threatening his own daughter with a knife. She's frightened. Fear is governed by the kidneys in the 5-element system. That's going to affect your calcitonin, which affects your bone metabolism. No wonder there's going to be osteoporosis further down the line. This person's body is all out of sync with everything. So this is where we link in our anatomy, physiology, pathology, biochemistry, endocrinology, and homeopathy. We link it all together. The body is doing this. The nerves are doing this. The mind is assessing and responding to this. And this is causing the hormones to do this. The organs are doing that. And that is the patient picture we have.
Can I have a question?
Sorry, who's this, Veronica?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with kidneys, every time person is in prolonged fear, is it fair to say for Chinese 5 elements, kidneys are affected, which then throws the calcium metabolic balance in the body out, and that will then lead over time, or is sure to lead over time, to the calcium imbalance related problems like osteoporosis? Yeah, that is set map, isn't it, for that person who's who's in fear?
We don't say it's for definite, but what we say is we understand the body. And so the emotion is fear, the organ is kidneys and the bladder. So people either go toilet a lot, you say, why nervous? And some people say, I've got a nervous bladder. The kidneys are our filters. So when they cannot filter properly, they cannot reabsorb the minerals. The way we form urine, all the crap comes out and we keep all the minerals to reuse them back in our body. Calcium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, etc., etc. Okay? So one of the most abundant minerals, other than sodium and sodium chloride, salt, is calcium, beg your pardon. When the calcium absorption is affected, the body cannot reabsorb enough calcium, and whatever calcium's there is throwing out all the other minerals. So it can affect the calcium absorption, reabsorption, and utilization. If that doesn't happen, it leads to a whole cascade of hormones, calcitonin, etc. The calcitonin is the name for calcium. Calcitonin is the calcitrol, beg your pardon, is the hormone that controls it. So when these things are being affected, the person cannot utilize their minerals. The other thing that we know in the body, calcium and magnesium are in a 2-to-1 ratio, twice as much calcium as magnesium. So this is the reason we say to people who are stressed, you need lots and lots of magnesium, because if your calcium's out of sync, you can bet your magnesium is. And when you look at things like nuts, almonds, cashews, pistachios, etc., they have a calcium magnesium ratio of 2-to-1. Nature doesn't make mistakes, only humans do. So when we say to people, magnesium is a very important mineral, it's utilized in over 300 bodily functions. We know why, but we also know that it's linked directly in balance with calcium. So even if people have something like hypercalcemia, too much calcium, atherosclerosis, what do? We give them magnesium to balance that ratio. Then we give them things like vitamin D3 and vitamin K2, not K1, because vitamin D gets your calcium from your digestion into your blood. Vitamin K2 takes it from your blood and helps the calcium go into your bones. Calcium, along with phosphorus, is calc phos. That's what the main 2 minerals are for bones. And when you look in your remedies, calc phos is the #1 bones joint remedy, along with something called calcium fluoride. So when we do a case, we're applying all our theory, all our knowledge. We're applying our homeopathic remedies. We're getting our methodology right, but we're tying up our body systems as well. So when we look at the body, we don't need blood tests and reports. We can tell them what's going on. And then when they turn around and say, yeah, you know, my GFR, my glomerular filtration rate, which is the rate of filtering of my kidneys, is out of sync, or my liver enzymes are high, my GGT or ALP or ALT, these are your 3 liver indicators. No wonder you're suppressed, you're angry, you're pissed off. I know your mineral analysis is going to be out of sync. I don't need to read your blood results. So this is why I keep saying to us all, you're medical professionals. You're not a lab pathologist expert. You're not a GP, but you're medical professionals. This is why our patients are called patients, not clients. But yeah, so what we're doing now, we're taking our clinics up a notch and tying up all these systems together. So brilliant question, Karen. Thanks for that pointer, Veronica. Any other questions, comments from anybody else?
It's Mariana.
Hello, Mariana.
Hello. I have been playing lately with vision, and I've noticed that when you do rank the rubrics, if you start with mind and then you go into physical general and the physical specifics, and then you play with the order, you have different results in terms of remedies. So I wonder if Veronica does change the order of her rubrics, whether that will stay the same. What is your opinion?
Are you asking me?
Or Veronica?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I don't think I've heard you correctly.
If we change the rubrics and start with a mind and then go into physical general and physical specific, I wonder whether you will have the same remedies that will appear in that ranking, because I've been playing with the vision, and I noticed that it's different. If you rate them like you did now, as if you probably thought about them, they come in a different order at the top. I was just wondering whether you have done that before, or you have an experience, and whether you have noticed that as a pattern.
Absolutely. I think if 10 homeopaths will put their own input, they will differ somewhat. But ultimately, if you look at the etiologies, it will bring you back to Karkan, Staph Sagria, Natmur, because there's lots of suppression, anger, you know. So I'm looking at the patient as a whole. I don't just go by what vision spits out, if that makes sense.
It does actually, Veronica, and if I may add to that, Mariana, if I understand you correctly, that is something I haven't done myself, and I'll give you a reason why. That when I do my repertorization, I'm very, very clear in the order of which I want my rubrics anyway. So I don't put a physical particular over a mental, emotional, etc. I will do them in order in my mind. Before I click the repertorize button in Vision, I can rank with the 2 arrows up and down and Vision. This is not a Vision software tutorial clinic, because we don't want to lose everybody that's paying attention to cases today. So that's a topic we can have offline. Veronica's absolutely right. Irrespective of the ranking and what Vision does, Vision is just a quick way to sum up the scores. If we didn't have Vision, we do it on a spreadsheet and just add up the numbers. You could do it in a book in 10 minutes. It's not a problem. So absolutely second what Veronica said. I don't use Vision as my overall, my prescriber. I'm the prescriber, not Vision. Vision is software which enables me to rank my remedies and add them up quickly. It doesn't replace your own brain. It never will. So it's a quick and dirty way. If we live by Vision, we die by Vision, we're limited by Vision, we're not proper homeopaths, we're slaves to a bit of software. So I'd caution all of us to use it as a guide. And what do we do in all these assignments we ask you to do? Rank your 3 top remedies, differentiate them, justify them, know what you're giving and know why. If someone turns around and says, well, I'm giving it because Vision says so, then you're not a homeopath, you're a software reader. So we don't want to encourage people to go down that path. The art of homeopathy is applying the remedy, knowing your patient, knowing the remedy, matching it. Vision just throws up your options for you. It narrows down your selection. That's the purpose it has. If we over-rely on Vision, we don't have much use as homeopaths. Okay, any other questions on this case? Right, let's move on to the next one. Thank you very much for that, Veronica. Varsha, are you online and ready? Hello.
Yes, so I am.
Hi, Varsha, over to you. Talk us through your patient and let us know what's going on.
All right, so this is a 34-year-old male. He's got no siblings, married. Chubby, fair, visible dandruff, psoriasis on face. Smart, funny, formally dressed, overdressed. So this is a very tricky or peculiar case because I know the wife is my client, she's my patient, and she tried to get her husband come online on Zoom. So we did this on Zoom.
Can I just interject right there?
Yes.
I'm going to let you carry on with the case, and this is another way. Vosh and I had a conversation yesterday, and we said, always let your patients show you who they are before we even analyze anything else. So I'm just going to give you a starter for 10. And the reason I'm jumping in actually, Vosh, is because you've just said that you know the people, you're quite close to the case, okay? So don't tell us too much more about it, because then you're encroaching on something called a conflict of interest. We have guidance in our student clinic to say, if you know a patient, you must declare it up front, because you've taken the case and you're sharing it with us. And without getting their consent, you're not really supposed to do that, okay? That's the way we do it in the UK law. I know you're in the Middle East, it's not a problem. So we don't want to know too much about the person's family side if you know them that well, okay? That's why I'm stopping it as well. So I'm just going to let that die for a second. And just the fact that we've got the description here of chubby, fair, visible, it's relatively short. So we've got a short, stocky, fat, fair, flabby man. And he's got psoriasis. Without even knowing anything else, my mind is automatically going to calc-carb. He's smart, funny, nice. He's well-spoken, formally dressed. Overdressed, you put in brackets. What that tells us, this person has pride in his appearance, or they're concerned how other people perceive them. And that's another key indicator for calc-carb. Calc-carb always worry what other people think. That's all I'm going to say there. So even before we go into a case, and those of you who know me well know I always say focus on who the patient is, what they look like, what they're dressed like, short, fair, dark skin, blue eyes, etc. So just on that, there is so much we can take from this case. Even if we don't know the symptoms, at least we know the constitution and who they are anyway. So thank you. Please carry on.
So he has history of psoriasis. He was diagnosed with pulmonary sarcoidosis about a year and a half back. He's clearly suffering from depression now, and he recently tried to commit suicide.
Right, stop there. Anything come to your mind? I know you're quite new into the case, halfway through. Any remedies come to mind right away?
For suicide, I think the way I look at it, he needs to, it's grief, it's suppression.
Okay, I want to stop you there. I'm not going to say anything right now. Audience, members of the audience, please shout out.
Can I just say, quite often, it's Veronica here, quite often failed suicide attempts are shout for help. So it could be pulsatilla, you know.
Right, no, right. Anybody else want to have a go? Right, my guidance is, the minute you hear the word suicide, attempted, thought, considered, was thinking about it, you stop everything in your case taken, and you just stop. You put your paper down, you look at your patient. You don't say anything to them, and in your head, the one thing you absolutely must be existing in your prescription is aurum metallicum. Number one suicide remedy. So the minute you get a case of something like that, your head stops, and you've got to think that that's the way you must be trained to do it as well. There might be other causes as well, but the fact that they're doing suicide, that's got to be in your mix straight away, because that word is such a big flag. We can try and heal someone, the week later they can go and kill themselves. So therefore, we know we've got somebody very, very, very emotionally vulnerable, because it takes a great deal of worthlessness to try and kill yourself. We get hurt if we burn our fingers, for crying out loud. Imagine how hopeless we must feel to actually want to kill ourselves. It's such a severe, severe state of being that we cannot just simply ignore and say, oh, they tried to commit suicide once. No, it has to be front and center of everything we do, because that person has showed us that when things affect them, they could be, this is a trigger, it could be there. So it's very volatile. That's just to, not yourself here, Vosh. It's a great example for us to remember these things and be mindful of them when we take our cases. So that's why, again, so sometimes a case just makes us pause and reflect. It's a clinic. It's not the aim just to get to the medicine, the remedy. It's to understand what we're seeing and what the person is. So that's just a big flag to us. Okay, please carry on. Thank you, Vasha.
So he accepts that he is in depression, and he's upset that family and friends are not taking time out to indulge him, to sit and talk with him. He has financial stress as per his wife. He obviously is in a lot of loans and debts as per his wife. And why I keep saying this is because he refused to talk. So this case has come via his wife. He refuses to take homeopathy, and the wife insists that she will somehow get him to do it. So this whole narration is from her. So now he's couldn't handle pressure, so tried to run away, commit suicide. He holds grudges with parents. He has childhood abandonment issues, which are coming up right now. So it's now that he talks about how he felt his parents didn't give him enough time or not enough love. Doesn't want to talk to a family or friends now. He's very proud of his achievements. And at the moment, he's staying alone. He's staying away, and he can't travel because of the COVID lockdown. So he's stuck somewhere.
If you've got a guy staying alone, he's at danger to himself. In England, we would probably refer him to a system called safeguarding. Safeguarding helps children who are being abused, but it's also there for people who are danger to themselves. So this is a very concerning case purely because of that.
I understand. So they do have social support there, but so to say, he doesn't have his wife, his parents, his family next to him. Yeah, but so he does feel he's alone.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't, to be fair, with a case like this, we can look at the timeline and see what's happened. So let's go through that. But it's so obvious from just, that's why knowing this about somebody, knowing how they present, how they're dressed even shows you what their view of themselves and how they want to be perceived by the outside world is. It shows you that it could be a cover-up. And you talked about the mental emotion. And I've just said a few minutes ago about all our glands and hormones, the main ones that govern us sit in our brain. Why? Because our brain senses our world. So this tells us what this person's state of mind is. Right, so talk us through the timeline so we can see the path that this person's been on.
So he's been the only child, working parents, mom, teacher, father, corporate. So he's been responsible since early years, played by himself. Psoriasis, but no substantial treatment because according to him, his mom never had time for it. In his teens, he had issues with wet pants, and every time he had those, his father reprimanded him, and which is what's bothering him now. So he's the youngest dean at a private college after finishing studies in UK. Then he got married. The next year, his house caught fire. His father was hospitalized. His son was born. A year after that, he changed jobs because of stress, started his own business. The business failed. He lost money. He owed money to people. He has complaints of heart pain. He's diagnosed with pulmonary sarcoidosis. They did a surgery to install the AICD in his heart. And now he owes money and he's stressed and he tried to kill himself.
Can you tell us what an AICD is? It doesn't really matter in this case, but just tell us what it is out of interest.
AICD is a device which is similar to the pacemaker. So because his heart supposedly has arrhythmia. So every time he misses a beat, the device will automatically kick in and it will trigger the heart.
Fine, I'll stop you there again. Now, just for us all, so those people that have done the heart modules, we cover the anatomy and physiology, we cover the heart remedies, people automatically think of things like cactus, crataegus, all the rest of it. Aurum is a major, major heart remedy, as well as suicide, as well as bones. So aurum, and sometimes we talk about this, I know Ellen used to when I was a student, the three-legged stool. We've got a mental emotional issue, we've got a physical general, we've got a physical particular. He's got fear, he got reprimanded for wetting his pants. He got told off for being a child. Fine. I don't know what a sleep orgasm is. Somebody educate me on this. Is that just like when children have spontaneous erections in bed?
I believe so, yes. That's what he was trying to say.
Fine. Okay. So, but if he wet his pants, that's fear. He's going to sleep a scared little boy. Scared. So an aurum, if you look at aurum, read up aurum afterwards, make a note on it. It should be a key remedy here. This is how we link up our materia medica with our repertorizing. We've got suicidal, loneliness, ailments from abandonment. This is what I'm seeing in the case already. But okay, carry on.
So, yeah, the family, the father's side, the physical generals, of course, the dandruff, and face psoriasis, arrhythmia, scar in the heart tissue, and TB, the pulmonary sarcoidosis.
Okay.
And for me, I thought the physical particulars in this case were more of the mental ailments than the physical, because right now he's going through humiliation. He desires sympathy. He keeps saying, nobody's spending time with me. Of
Okay.
course, the childhood abandonment,
Okay, so
grief, feeling stuck.
perfect. Them, by the way, Varsha, they come under the mental emotional category, not the physical particular. Let's going up to the tuberculosis. Did he actually have TB?
Yes.
Right, he's had TB as well. Now, when your heart is affected, it affects your breathing. If he's got an intracardiac device, I'm assuming that's what ICD stands for, and A might be atrial, so he might be having a bit of atrial flutter or fibrillation. Irrelevant to me. He's upset, he's scared, he's frightened. His heart's fluttering. There's a nerve comes down from the brain called the sinoatrial nerve, which controls the heart. It's our natural pacemaker. So when you're frightened and scared and your mental emotions are all over the place, naturally your heart's going to be fluttering. Boom, boom, boom. It's all out of sync. His body's out of sync. So read the remedies and it will guide you and help you think, well, actually, does this fit my patient? Is this what my patient is showing me? He's a worried, scared. How old is he now? He's 34. He's just getting into his life now. He's middle of his adulthood. He'll be middle-aged in 10, 20 years. And he doesn't have much confidence in himself, but he's fearful. Never feels loved. Feels abandoned by everybody. These are all mental emotional rubrics. Okay. So father side, no issues to note on the father side.
No, and mother's side, so mother's brother, his uncle suffers from depression and tried committing suicide a couple of times. And the patient sympathizes with his uncle.
Okay. Now, if we look at the mother's side, you've got somebody trying to commit suicide. Now, for those of you, I'll try and pull it up in a minute. Right after we break for someone else to comment, I'm going to try and pull up the 5. Actually, let's do it now. Bear with me, everybody. I'm just going to do it right now so we can talk it through. So if you can see what I'm doing, just bear with me. Right, I'm just going to add in 5 elements so we can discuss this through, okay? Oops, hang on, bear with me. Very important. Now, if we look at the heart, for those of you that already have 5 elements there, the heart is a destructive thing, it's syphilitic. Now, committing suicide is also a syphilitic trait. Let me just see if they'll do that for us. If not, I'll have to take this offline. So, bear with me. So, this person's heart is affected. His mind's affected. He's suicidal. Suicide is probably the ultimate syphilitic state. All right, I can't do it right now because I'm sharing screen, so bear with me on that one. Okay, so I don't know how to do that, but I'll figure that out later. So, if you look at the 5 elements, he's destroying himself. He's inherited that. That miasm is active from his mother's side. That if I can't handle life, I will destroy myself. Veronica's case has syphilitic miasm in a different way with the addictive qualities, etc. This is with total destruction, suicide, the end. Okay, patient sympathizes with his uncle, so they've got something in common there. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, I found that very interesting, actually.
Shall we go on to your next slide?
Yes, please.
Sorry, that was the blank slide I was trying to create. So go on then, talk us through this.
So, of course, the case analysis is childhood abandonment, seeking sympathy but can't cry, humiliation, psoric also, and syphilitic now, feeling isolated, stuck.
Yep. Good.
And the rubrics. Well, I've written classical, but I realized this last night that it's probably what I've done is part patient because I want to address his mental, emotional first before I get into his physicals of tuberculosis.
Okay. Just so we know for all of us listening, when we're dealing with the mental emotional, that affects the whole person. So it's a mental emotional rubric is always a whole patient method.
All right. Yes,
because
it is.
It affects his whole entire well-being.
Okay.
Question I have for you. We've got cause effects. If we go back to your other slide, what has led him to commit suicide? Did he talk about what led him to that?
Well, actually, no, it says he wasn't sure what he was planning on doing. He couldn't handle pressure. So it was basically pressure. So tried to run away, commit suicide.
Okay, because if we look at his timeline, he's 34 now. He tried to commit suicide 4 or 5 months ago. And at 33, his business failed. He lost money. That causes complaints of heart pain. So shock, heart, worthless. It's basically failure, right? So
Basically, it's
whatever
a
happened. So
failure. It's humiliation because he's failed, become emotional. And now all he's doing is going down the hill.
yeah. So he couldn't face the humiliation and he wanted to top himself. Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got to help him with that. Okay. That gives us an idea of what's caused it in the first place. Okay. Please carry on.
So the rubrics I've used as mind abandoned, mind ambitious fame, because he is very proud of his achievements. He keeps talking about, I was so good, but I am not now. Mind business, ailments, failure of a business. And that brings aurum for suicide, aurum from failure of business. Depression, he cannot cry, natmare, depression, financial loss, again, aurum. Humiliation, again, aurum. Psoriasis that he has, which is the physical, that is graphite, lycopodium, dandruff, tuberculosis, and I've just included the heart tonic. I've not gone specifically into his heart issue yet because I thought the emotional needs more work on.
Let's focus on the rubric because with this case it's very important. So I'm going to open this up to the floor. Anybody else like to add any suggestions that other rubrics we could consider for this person? Anybody like to volunteer a few rubrics?
Mind better for company. I don't know how it goes, but that would be.
Mind better for company. Anybody else? Thank you, Veronica. Anybody else want to venture anything forward?
Mind, hopelessness, helplessness.
Brilliant. Thank you, Francesca. Anybody else? Any more?
Tom, what about ailments of disappointed, isn't it financial loss? Is it ignatia?
Yeah, brilliant. Ailments from disappointments.
Grief as well?
Yes, grief. So we've got lots and lots of mental emotions that we could use here. We can also use something like mind worries, and there's a little sub-rubric in there, financial matters. Calc, carb, nugs come to mind there anyway. People who over-worry a lot, right? So we've dealt with the memory. There's something here, when I stopped Varsha talking after the first sentence, that's not in here. Somebody please help me out. I shouldn't have to spell it out here. Okay, then I will. Mind suicide. That is number one thing that's missing from this case as a rubric. So when we have a case like this, and when we go back to it, I'm going to jump this blank slide again. When we go back here, and if you can, hopefully you can see my cursor here. We've got it here. Tried, committed suicide. It was at that point when I said, right, Varsha, and to all of us, we need to stop. As soon as we've got that, we know what rubric definitely has to be in the case. I don't care what method we're using, even if it's one rubric, suicide definitely is in there. So that should be in the rubrics regardless, okay? And when we have that, aurum will come up. You could also have it.
It's there. It's there,
so it's there.
It's mind suicidal aurum.
Suicide.
Beg your pardon. You know what? I beg your pardon. I didn't even see it here. There it is. Right, there you go. Okay, got it. My mistake. I didn't even see it amongst all the natmules there. Glad to see it's there. That would probably be my top of my list there as well. Thank you very much for correcting me. So again, this should be a key. That's probably my own error in what I look for as a rubric. That should be the top of the list, regardless, because we have a suicide. And when we have a patient like this, I don't really care that he's got psoriasis. He could die because he could kill himself. So everything else goes out the window with a case like this. We don't work backwards from a little itch. This is a place where you actually have a chance to save someone's life. So all the theory goes out the window. Every method goes out the window. It should be as simple as that, black and white, okay? But then we use the rest because it's good practice. It's a good way to put our rubrics down. That's fine. It would have been good to see the rep results in terms of scoring if we could have it. Not a problem. Doesn't matter. So it's good that we've got this down. Let's talk through the prescription you're thinking of giving.
So I definitely feel he needs pulsatilla.
Okay.
Perhaps a rescue remedy.
Okay.
He needs aurum for sure, and I put in a calming mix there, and natmure. He's definitely, I feel he's a lycopodium for sure. So I've gotten that, I haven't gone high on it. I just wanted to start supporting his vital energy there. It's a lycopodium.
Okay.
Sorinum I put, but I personally now don't feel it's the need of the hour yet. Put Craticus for the mother tincture, Avena sativa, again to calm him down. And I feel that he needs to go on carb, but not yet, because right now I don't want to unsuppress him. Right now I need to calm him down.
Okay. Anybody want to comment about this prescription here?
I would go highest on aurum. Pulsatilla, yes, better for company, but he doesn't cry, and Pulsatilla will weep. So I'm not sure about right now. Pulsatilla is for him. Natmure definitely, because Natmure is about suppressed grief, isn't it? So that's a good one.
Mm.
Also,
else?
from the timeline, I think I saw that all of his skin issues started with the abandonment. So that's a leg. So he became very psoric. Yeah, so you can see it. Working parents, therefore they working, they're never around. He has to fend for himself. So lacks nourishment. So it manifests in his skin. So he was psoric. So that's a lack of. So that's as some said, that's the least of our problems.
Yes,
and I wouldn't. I would just really go heavy on aurum. I would even go 50 as a first thing. You know.
Anybody else like to comment on anything on the prescription itself? Okay, I think that's it. First of all, Vasha, very, very well done. It's a very difficult case. I know you're, like I said, you're a few months into the course, so it takes great guts to even present and share this and expose yourself. So well done. Well done on the rubrics. You could also add in another one for heart, as just general heart, and see what remedies come up, because his mind is affecting his heart, which is giving his heart condition. But again, it's irrelevant. You sort the mind out, the heart will sort out for itself. Okay. I would concur with what Veronica is suggesting. The key remedy you want to be focusing on here is aurum. And I always, in my little brain, I always say M for the mind. So I know that if it's a mental emotional, I'm looking at M potencies anyway. Because this is quite a high intensity, and it's fairly recent. It was in February. We're in what, June? 4 months ago, he tried to kill himself. We need to go higher.
Yes.
I would be tempted to give him 50 M aurum once a day. And and even though we combo remedies here, personally, I would be giving him aurum on its own as a standalone remedy at night. The others you can give sometimes else in the day. Okay.
Okay.
Is this guy on any medication? This is something we didn't look at here, or have I missed it?
Steroids
well, he is on a lot of medications because of his TB, specifically steroids, and of course for his heart rate. The list was a long one, and they didn't feel like going into it. They just said that we've had all of it. So
okay, so you've got a couple of options here then, because that is what we call an obstacle to cure. Okay, so we've got an obstacle to cure his current work stress. It's a maintaining cause his work stress, because if it's still there, it's going to happen. The arrhythmia is not a maintaining cause. That is an effect of the cause. That's fine. So really, we've got to talk about detoxing him here. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. I know you're in Qatar. I know remedies aren't easy to get, etc., and he might not be forthcoming with his own prescriptions. So it might be difficult to make a tautopathic remedy. In that case, you have a couple of strategies. Because normally a tautopathic method will be giving nux and cark together, plus I call it T, i.e. the tautopathic remedy you're going to give. And you normally give, in the tautopathic method, for those that you haven't covered it yet, you normally give the most, I'm going to use the word deadly, it's the most dangerous drug that they're on. You try and neutralize that first before you go to the others. And hands up, I have given sometimes 2 or 3 tautopathically myself. But if you cannot do that, the very least you can do is give him nux to strengthen his liver while it's metabolizing all these drugs he's taken. That's the first thing that needs to be considered, okay? So that is absolutely needed as part of his prescription. You could also do with adding to that Berberis vulgaris, which will help support the liver, gallbladder, spleen, and kidneys. Because the kidneys will then filter all these crappy drugs out of his system, and we know he's got some fear in there as well, okay? So that's one thing. Now with potencies, you may not have covered LM potencies yet. LM, not Ellen, as our tutor, right? And LM potencies often work through a drug layer when you cannot access the tautopathic layer tautopathically. So if you have a machine, you might want to make Aurum 10 LM.
Okay.
And you and I can probably take that prescription offline at some point. For those of you who have studied the course and have graduated and have covered LM potencies, it's something worth getting your teeth into. I think I had a chat with Roger a few days ago as well. And this is where we can see the use of them, where we've got someone with multiple drugs, and yet we don't know exactly what drugs he's on. So we can't really give a tautopathic because we don't know what we're detoxing. But we can do an LM potency that goes through the layer regardless and works softly, gently, deeply, and effectively. So that's where the LM potency might come in handy here. And that's probably the little revisions to your prescription. Otherwise, it's a good prescription.
Yes, so I wasn't sure about the Nux formic. I'll put that in. That's why I put a question mark there for Nux,
Yeah.
and I thought he was a cal-carb as well, but then I said not yet.
Cal-carb is one thing, but like I said before, the minute someone talks about suicide, it's like I said, the buck stops there. That is your. We try and heal people. We try and cure a bit of a nail infection, a bit of psoriasis, but we can't cure a dead patient. So when you've got someone trying to kill themselves, everything changes, the game over, you see? So that has to be front, foremost, and center of every single thing here. We're going to keep his mind so he doesn't kill himself. When he gets through a point, and check on him often, and if you know the family, check on them often, say, how's he doing? And with the patient like this, you don't review every 4 weeks, because if they feel funny, they're going to kill themselves. Keep in touch with them. Make sure they're okay in healing. Ask them to be in touch with how they're feeling. They might not talk to their families because there's a pride issue. I don't want to feel like a failure. So sometimes the best people they talk to is us. We listen, we keep it inside. We're not impacting their day-to-day lives. We don't judge them. So it's a nice way for them to have an outlet, but it lets you keep on top of it. And then you can tweak it as you go with this patient. Because the minute you got suicidal, they're at risk to themselves. And if they die, then you're dealing with the after effects of all the family. So this is where the theory stops and we get practical, save a life. Okay? The rest is all nice to do. The most important is the Aurum that gets into the patient. Is that okay on that one?
May I ask a question,
Yeah.
Barsha?
Yes.
This is Suzanne, hi. The patient, did he tell you himself that he had tried to commit suicide, or did the wife?
No, the wife. So the thing is, he doesn't want to get into all of this. He's in denial mode, and the wife insists that she will try and get him to have the remedies. So this is third person case.
But she had physical evidence or enough evidence that he had actually tried.
Oh no, she did have to fly to where he was. So it happened. I mean, none of this is hypothetical.
No, I'm just clarifying because I'm just interested in the dynamic. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay. I've got two things here. From experience, I've had a case where Guy was, when he got into trouble, he did try suicide, and it was a strong pulsatilla case. It could be as well lycopodium, because those people can become a bully, you know, over, well, if things are not going my way, I'm just gonna end it. Then they don't, you know, they make sure they don't, but they put on like a, and I'm not saying this is the case, I'm just adding to a learning experience that it could be, you know, not cry for help, but cry for attention and ways of dealing with life. Because if the person doesn't get enough attention on whatever they're lacking, I'll just commit suicide and then everybody will give me attention. And secondly, if we don't know what tautopathy to do, I seem to remember there is a remedy, Narayani mix called Poison, which has got pull-out properties as well. So would you use that some?
Me personally, everyone knows my views on Narayani. No, not because I'm anything against Narayani. Like I said, they're just a mixture of remedies. Our skill is to say, okay, use a Narayani, understand what's in it. I wouldn't, because I would refer us all back to how we studied old school, which is go to your repertory, go to your chapter called toxicity, and even at the test of toxicity general, the number one remedy is Nux, which is why we use Nux and Carc, because carcinosin also helps to support the liver. And when we're dealing with detox of anything, we're supporting the liver so the liver can do its job. The liver can do its job anyway. Its job is to detox. That's what it does. It metabolizes things. But when it's overburdened with drugs, which are foreign bodies to the system, it needs extra support. So when the NUX doesn't detox it, it supports the liver so it can do its job better. That is the purpose of detoxing, or what we call organ support. So you want to support the liver. And once it's done breaking down all these drugs, it has to go through the kidneys and they have to filter it. So when we do organ support, we should be looking at liver and kidneys together. That's why things like milk thistle, Silimarin, if you want the Latin name, Berberis vulgaris, Nux vomica, Chelidonium, all these remedies help. Lycopodium is also a major liver remedy, so it could help in that respect as well anyway. So that's why we all say this is an art. There's no, you must do it this way or that way. We're throwing options at you. As long as you know that aurum has to be considered, the rest of the supportive, you've got Lycopodium, I think you've got Serenum in there as well. That's absolutely fine. Crataegus as a mother tincture, you could give it. That's not a problem. All the rest is okay. Avena sativa, great to calm the mind. This guy has mental emotional issues. Nothing wrong with the prescription. The pulsatilla is probably the only thing that you don't really need. Nat Muir is needed.
You know,
sorry?
No. Sorry, the reason I'll explain to you, and it's what, I don't know who spoke just before you. So the reason I put pulsatilla 10M there is because, like what she said, you know, from when I spoke to his wife, it seemed like the suicide was just an attempt to get the attention. From the way she described it, it didn't seem like he was going to do anything.
Right. But,
so it seemed more like, so for me, pulsatilla is somebody who wants that attention. He might not go and cry literally, but it's more like, nobody's listening to me. I am depressed. I am sad. Why are you not giving me attention?
Okay.
So and they're also manipulative.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's a lycopodium. So a lycopodium with pulsatilla. That is what I had in my mind when I said, you know, he needs more of course he needs aurum, no denying, but I thought,
okay, but then that's a good for all of us to say, well, actually, we could include the rubric mind manipulative, mind attention seeking, and you add them in. That will help to strengthen your repertorizing. What we're learning now more and more is the key is analyzing the case, what needs to be dealt with, and then getting the rubrics to repertorize. Once you do that, you will not ever go wrong. So maybe, like you said, if you knew that, or you felt it, or you got the impression. Because we also say, we take the case, we only know what the patient tells us. When we're able to complete the picture by their loved ones, family, etc., we can find out what they don't tell us as well. So when you add that into your mix, it can change the picture. And that's also okay, because when you do the follow-up, you can probably explore that further, Varsha. And then you can re-repertorize again, yes. And a different remedy might come up then. The first need, if it's a case of saying, well, is it pulsatilla or not? I would say, I'm going to give aurum because I'm going to save a life. I can deal with his bullying tactics when he's alive. I can't deal with him when he's in a coffin. Because am I willing to take the chance that it could be, couldn't be? Not really. So I'd always, do you see what I'm saying? I'm not saying it isn't the case, but am I willing to take that risk as a practitioner? No. I'll rather say, I've got my aurum, I'm done. Then when I follow up in a week or two and I get a better picture of the patient, and once that aurum has helped him lift his state, he might express himself more anyway. To say, well, actually, I'm a bit of a coward, which is lycopodium as well. I'm too scared to take my own life. I actually did it because no one's paying attention. Then you know it's lycopodium through and through. Lycopodium is an anti-psoriatic remedy. Anyway, it's liverish, it's manipulative, it's cowardice, it's lacking confidence. So it ticks all them boxes as well. But if you've got this overarching thing of suicide, that has to come front and center. You can't treat a dead patient. As simple as that. Once you lift it, do a follow-up in 2 weeks' time, and you can ignore aurum if you find out the information has changed, and then you can give the rest of it, and it would feel perfectly well. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So that would be a good strategy. Because you know them, though, you're able to follow them up sooner. So that would probably be the case. Maybe in a couple of weeks' time, say, how are you doing? Then get a picture and say, well, when you tried to commit suicide, what did you actually do? If he says I did nothing, just lay in bed, well, you actually didn't commit suicide then. Did he take an overdose? Did he drive his car off a cliff? Try and explore it if he's willing to talk. That's where the carcinosin will help, because it will help unsuppress them feelings as well. So take the carc in, which will accompany the nux vomica. Not only does it help detox him, it will slowly just unearth them feelings. If they overwhelm him and tip him over the edge, he may well kill himself. That's what the aurum does. It gives that protection. So that's why we use a combination of remedies, each doing their own job in their own particular way to bring the patient back to healing. Does that help?
No, it does. That's why I thought I'd go low potency in Cork, because I don't want to unsuppress him right away, you know, gradually, so he doesn't tip the...
Stick Nux and Cork at 30C. Give it at night time, because that's the time for the liver. And then you can change your aurum in the daytime.
All right.
10 LM, okay, if you can make the LM. So that should help that case. Any questions, comments, or observations from anybody else?
Oh, hi, yes, it's Claire.
Hi, Claire.
I just wanted to ask, is there an issue, like, fundamentally, that he said he doesn't want to take homeopathy? Like, can we still do this if he said that he's not open to using the remedies?
Sorry, are you asking me or Varsha? Didn't...
Oh, just kind of generally, because I heard at the start Varsha was saying that he didn't want to take homeopathy. So is that a fundamental issue if someone says they don't want to take the remedies?
Oh, okay. Varsha, do you want to help us understand that a bit further?
The way I see it, I mean, you could have a patient in the hospital and he'd say, oh, I don't want the medicine, and the doctors would still give him. So
right.
I think that's for the family to decide and take the call. If they come to me for help, this is a prescription I give. And yeah.
Did this guy say he doesn't want to take homeopathy?
Yes.
So he doesn't want to take it?
He doesn't want to take anything right now. At the moment, he's in complete denial. So he's not taking anything. I mean, I think the wife is just not sure that he's even continuing with his own prescriptions, the allopathic ones. But that's not my problem.
Correct. It's not your problem, nor is it your responsibility. If they don't want to take it, we don't force them. You give it to the family, say, look, this is a prescription. If you can put it inside him, fine. If not, then I remember Ellen taught me years ago when I was dealing with a cancer patient. I've only lost one cancer patient after many I've had. And she said, sometimes, Sam, it's their right to die. So we have to remember that as well, that they have the right to punish themselves. They have a right to ignore anything that's given to them. We don't have any right to force it or impose it. We can say, you've come to me, here's your prescription. Whether you take it or not is not my concern. And it isn't, because you have to stay detached that way. So that's fair enough.
And I would say, because we're prescribing LM potencies, it will be liquid. So wife might want to make him a cup of tea.
So I've got a very different stance on that. I'm not one to have people coerce it against their will. I know some people do, especially loved ones. They go, I'll just do that. I'll rub it on his forehead, rub it on his feet, put a drop in his lips when he's half asleep. That's fine. I would never myself encourage that, because ethically I don't do that. But I know people do it. That's a judgment call based on the company, country, culture, and the family that you know. That's a decision only you can live with yourself, Asha. Okay?
No,
so,
like for me, when I give this prescription out, I'm just making sure that the family is not any more anxious, or the family feels good by having a prescription and the medicines in hand. If it calms the family down, half my job is done, you know. So that's it. Then I don't expect, I mean, if she wants to force him to take it, if he wants to take it, or she wants to hide it,
that's their problem.
Their call.
Yeah, their call. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or observations on this case?
Yes, son, Francesca here.
Hi, Francesca.
Hiya. I wanted to say that I totally agreed with Vasher about the carc and the dosage being given. I keep getting the same sense about this gentleman, and the sense is one of Jekyll and Hyde. On the one hand, he's in denial, and he's threatening suicide and not actually committing it as such. But I keep getting the sense that on the one hand, he feels very sorry for himself, and on the other hand, he is very angry that he's not getting the attention and what he wants, and that this isn't all just going away. And part of the suicide threat is a little bit of, I'll make you pay for not giving me the attention, then you'll understand. I think he's very angry, and he's totally unable to express that anger. So the more that he's able to express, and gradually, he doesn't, it sounds to me, and I don't know the person, but it sounds from the case that I've heard that his inability to express what he really feels and is thinking
is blocking him 100%. And he thinks that if he takes his life, not only will it take everything away, but those people who didn't pay him attention when they should have will pay.
Well, he is very suppressed, isn't he, from taking steroids and all of the other things?
Well, yes, that's the obstacle to cure. So if the aurum and the cark helps him to release and communicate, above everything else, he needs to communicate. Once he starts to communicate, it will begin to release the valve.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you, Francesca. I think right now it's like if I calm him down and then slowly, gradually unsuppress, and he might be in a state to start talking about it and start addressing it. But right now it is like, I mean, if you go back to my first slide, I did put a statement which some do. So in the mental emotional, if you see, it says that he accepts that he is in depression and is upset that family and friends are not taking time out to sit and talk with him. I mean, that's what he keeps harping about to his wife, to his family. Like, you know I lost money. I am upset, but you guys are not spending time with me. I need help. And the help that he wants is only in terms of sympathy. The wife is like, I'll get you homeopathy, I'll get you this. And he's like, no.
He wants the family to sit down and talk, or the family.
That's what they say.
So there's a whole lot of other rubrics around there. Mind desires company, mind desires sympathy, mind sympathy consoles better for consolation. There's a lot of other rubrics that you can explore as well. And sometimes you can repertoire 2 or 3 things. You can repertoire for the mind and the suicidal, then you can repertoire for the manipulation and all the rest, and come up with 2 results and say, well, this remedy is for this based on this repertorization, and this remedy is this based on this repertorization. I often do that. I don't put 10, 20 remedies, rubrics in one go. I group them together saying, well, what is this showing me? There's an element of this. What is this bunch of things showing me? And you're absolutely right. When you think of it, there is that underlying pulsatilla lycopodium need for company, desire, mind abandoned, mind desires company, mind alone. There's a lot of other rubrics that come out as well. Because what we don't know is how real or fake the suicide is. That's the thing that we don't know. And when you talk to people that know them, like the wife, you might say, has he attempted this before? Is he manipulative as a husband? Does he try and control you by his behavior? If she goes yes, then you know the lycopodium is there. If she goes no, he just lost it, he feels a failure, that's a different issue. Because we don't know this person, we're kind of guessing at the underlying personality behind it. Great observations from everybody on the bullying, needing attention issue. So there's more than the case.
Also, so there might be a lot of cultural expectation here.
Yeah.
So there's all of that to deal with, and maybe he's afraid to actually say that, which is actually causing the stressor on top of everything else.
There also might be, in some parts of the world, we get what we call the Asian male mentality, or the male-dominated mentality, where they think, right, I'm not going to tell a woman all my things because it's weak to talk about my feelings. I'm definitely not doing it to a stranger. I'm definitely not doing it in front of my wife. And I'm definitely not doing it to my wife's friend. So there might be that causing a blockage as well. We don't know. So there's all of these unknown factors. We deal with that in the Asian continent, in India, in Africa, in many, many cultures. So we don't know that either. So that's a layer of suppression or cultural conformity that we don't know either. And only you, Varsha, since you know them, will know what that limiting or enabling, how much that limits or enables his ability to talk. Because it almost feels like he was dragged to see you against his will.
Well, that definitely happened, like, because he said, I need help. So the wife was like, you know what, then let's get you an appointment, and that's why I said that. So the reason I went into the fact that it was because one, I saw him, he just told me hello, hi, and he walked away, and he was overdressed for that one call. And I found that very peculiar, because if you knew you're not going to come and talk to me, if you knew you're not going to be part of it, but you still made it a point to dress up, to just tell me hi, hello, and excuse yourself.
So mind attention seeks, mind attention desires. Put them rubrics and see what comes to mind.
And it also tells you that he actually cares, because he wouldn't be dressing up if he didn't care. He wouldn't be having showers if he didn't care. He wouldn't be shaving, etc.
And I agree. Yeah.
So that's the underlying calc carb. You see, if you repertorize mind worries, financial, mind cares, or other things, all this calc carb also rises up. And calc carb and lycopodium are antipsoric remedies.
Yes, that's why you see for my rep results, I did put calc carb as a question mark because I was like lycopodium or calc carb, both or just one. I wasn't sure.
That was the first thing we saw just based on his posture here alone. Chubby, fair, visible, dandruff, psoriasis, fat, fair, flabby, well-spoken, overdressed. And we said the first thing is he cares what other people think. And because now people don't give a damn about him, this suicide, fake or real, is eminent, isn't it? It's a cry for attention, so that's there. So now we're getting a better complete picture. So now if you go to your prescription, like we said, it's bang on. You've got everything covered here. You've got your Natmure, probably increase that. You've got your Aurum. I'm still not sure about the pulsatilla myself. Lycopodium psoriasis, absolutely fine. Crataegus you can give or not give, it doesn't matter. Carc is in there. Give your Nux and Carc together. Give your lycopodium as you go in here. Just increase your Aurum and you're done. And what you'll do, the other thing with the first consultation, we don't have to try and cure every single ailment right away. We give them a remedy. We restore the vital force. We give the vital force a nudge and a prod. Other things will reveal themselves after. Patients will change, symptoms will change, ailments will change. They might clamp down, they might open up. Because what you're trying to do is provoke a response. Because right now this person is shut down. And you can also have the rubrics mind answers, reluctant to. There's a whole thing about answering questions, answer sharply, answer indignantly. You can look at all these rubrics. That's why version 3 of our repertory has a massive, massive section on the mind, 500 odd pages of it. So explore these. So what you're trying to do is stimulate a response and see where you're at and then go from there on the follow-up. You're not going to do this all in one go because we don't even know if the remedies will actually enter this person's body. That's the other unknown factor, you see. So, so there's no point in us trying to have a conference for 3 hours trying to sort one patient out when we don't even know if he's going to actually take the medicines.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to just make it a very small prescription. I mean, of course, the ones that are needed. I didn't want to put in a whole lot of things out there for him.
Now we think that through. Think about compliance. We've got a patient here who doesn't even want to take remedies, doesn't believe in them, can't be bothered, and we're going to ask him to take them 3 times a day. How likely do you think that is happening? It'll be a challenge to get them once a day. Therefore, if it's only 1 pill a day, what do you think should go in that pill?
Aurum, Natmure, pulsatilla, lycopodium. I'd still put all of them.
You put Aurum, Natmure, you put your Nux Carc, and put your Nux Carc and lycopodium at 30C.
Yes.
And put your Aurum and Natmure at LM1. Forget the 10, put it at LM1 for now. You put them all in together. And you can do them in a pill. You don't always have to put them in water. I've used LM1 in pill format and just asked people to take on the tongue, and it's worked equally well. Because we say put it in water, what is in the mouth? Saliva. It's going to go into our water anyway. So I don't have a problem with putting the LM pills into a pill rather than a solution. Because at this case, at this point in time, we don't know what is happening, if he'll take it, if he'll throw them down the toilet and flush them. We have no idea.
Right, that makes sense. So I can just mix all of them
Correct.
together.
Because we don't know what drugs he's on. We don't know how much adrenal suppression there is with the steroids. We just want to try and provoke some kind of response that might open him up or calm him down. We don't know at this stage. So we don't want to beat ourselves up trying to get the perfect prescription. Perfection doesn't exist.
Right.
Okay.
Got it.
Brilliant.
Can you repeat the prescription for the,
Yes, who's that speaking, sorry?
Suzanne, hi.
Hi, Suzanne. Yeah. The suggestion was to have Nux Carc, Natmure and lycopodium at 30C.
Yeah.
And then to go with the Aurum and the Natmure.
Yeah. In an
at LM1.
Yeah, so you're putting everything in the pill.
Yeah, because we don't even know if this person's even going to take 1 pill.
Yeah.
It'll be foolish of us to expect him to take it 3 times a day.
Yeah, great.
So we're covering ourselves to say, well, if he does take the 1, at least something will happen to him. Something will get stimulated.
Fab.
If he's being harassed by people, it might be the attention he deserves, but then he might just think, you know what, screw it, I don't want to take him. So we don't know at this stage. So
nice to know you can combine an LM pill with a 30. That's makes my life easier. Thank you.
Yeah, of course it's happening. We've got to remember, it's just energy.
Yeah.
It's only energy contained. That's the best way to describe homeopathy. Energy contained.
Yeah.
Once it dissolves, it's released into our water. And as we know, why do we succus? Because water has memory.
Yeah.
75% water. Exactly.
Yeah, and we're 70% water, so it's going to work in a pill.
Yeah,
I think I was
exactly.
getting hung up with the fact that LMs are water, but they don't have to be. Thank you.
It's just energy. Energy is abundant everywhere. Yes. Okay. Because when people say, well, no, it has to be LM, there's a whole discussion about that. And we know that we can actually write a remedy on a piece of paper and say, right, just send them that. So how do we explain that then? That totally negates the issue of having LM in one. This from homeopaths in the olden days when they said, right, everything's done in water, everything's succussed. Because radionics machines and energy and microwaves were not invented 300 years ago.
Yeah.
So, they did what they did. When we know better, we understand quantum energy better now. It's just energy.
Yeah, I used to always do the circle with the triangle remedy.
Correct.
I had a radionic practitioner, so yeah.
I saw your comment on that because if energy didn't exist, Reiki practitioners wouldn't be in business.
Well, no, nor would I by dynamic craniosacral. It's you're working with the field.
Exactly. Yeah. Nor would the Ayurvedic chakra system work. Yeah. So it's all bloody energy. So
it's all intention.
Correct.
It's all intention. Yeah.
And that throws out the physical medium of putting 3 drops in water. That's a bit like witchcraft to me. Here's a cauldron, stir it 10 times, tap it with a metal spoon, do the hokey cokey and turn around. One load of bollocks. It's bloody energy.
Yeah.
Simple. So sorry about getting on my horse, but let's make, being a bloke, I can be a bit practical sometimes and pragmatic. But there you go. Right.
Thank you.
Are we okay with this case? Shall we move on?
Can I suggest something? Sorry.
Hello, who's this?
This is Jiva.
Hi, Jiva.
Hi. Even if he doesn't want to take the remedies, as long as he's putting the remedy in his pocket, that would do as well, isn't it?
There you go. It just needs to be near him or with him. They can send the intention themselves, but as I've said before to people say, yeah, you can channel it. Yeah, but if I'm a broken channel, I'm not sending the message, which is why we give the remedy to the patients. Which is why a lot of Reiki practitioners say, well, I need to heal, but I need to be myself. As a source, you must be complete. But he can do. Let's see what the wife does. If the wife has bought him 2 Varsha, I'm pretty damn sure she's going to make sure he takes the pill. She'd probably open his gob and throw it in there. We don't know. So let's leave that to their business. We do it from our side. That's a great suggestion. Anything else?
Yes. Right. Can I just ask one more question?
Yes. Who's this? Karen?
Karen. Yeah. So there was discussion at the beginning, or there was mention of 50M. This is about potency for Aurum, and then you went down to, or you went over to LM10, and then now it's at LM1. So I'm just wondering how to get to the final potency, or what would be the difference between a 50M and a 10 LM?
Because also before, what I've just learned is this patient, when I was at the 50M, I wasn't aware that he was so reluctant. He didn't want to be there.
Okay.
Right? So one thing, we didn't want to be there. Second, there's no point in trying to go deep with this person when he doesn't want to be there anyway. Let's start him off slow. He might think, I'm okay. He might be more amenable to things. So we might as well start with the LM1, because we're also combining everything in one go anyway. We can bring them along and bring them up anyway, as it is. We definitely need an LM to work through a drug layer, and it's a drug layer which we have no idea about.
Okay,
because
so
we don't know which drugs he's taking. Say again?
So the Aurum LM will also be working through the drug layer.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is the benefit of discussing cases. Now, Francesca, Varsha, Veronica, they've had a thing that could there be a bullying tendency, a manipulative tendency, this tendency, that tendency. Therefore, when we know better, we should be in a state where we can totally disregard anything we say and start all over again. And because we haven't actually written the prescription, we can do this 1,000,000 times over. Because as we learn information, it should refine the prescription we do. If we learn this and we think, well, there might be an element of that, and actually the Aurum is almost like a red herring, or the actual suicide is a red herring or a cry for help, then the state where I said earlier about it's life or death, it might not be as serious. We don't know. We still need to give it. LM1 will still work very deeply, very effectively. But it's not the case he's going to kill himself now. And as long as it's in, he will still be okay. The carc will unsuppress him slowly anyway, if he wants to. That's if the medicine's even taken in him, because he might just look at his wife and say, forget it, leave me alone. We don't even know. So that's why we come down from 50 to LM1. Let's start slow. Let's just see if it goes in. Let's just see if the patient even takes it.
Okay.
I've seen
Also, some I would probably go for sweet chestnut instead of rescue remedy, because rescue remedy is more for fear and panic, and whereas sweet chestnut is probably, you know, when you're end of a tether, you're feeling total anguish, you've lost all hope, and it's more, it's basically, that's what I'd probably go for. Rescue remedy for me is more when you're in that extreme panic, fright situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not in a extreme fright. He's in a, I need attention, almost like a child. I need attention, I need it now. No one gives a damn about me. But he also, he's lost his business. He's fearful. Life is not worth living. There is that real element still there, because when you lose your business and it all comes crashing down, that is a major cause of suicide for people anyway.
So
we
yeah,
know the suicidal
I'd probably go for sweet chestnut.
The suicidal miasm is in him because his uncle committed suicide on his mother's side.
So that's a syphilitic.
It's a syphilitic miasm. So we could even give him an intercurrent in the weekend of syphilinum, stop him being destructive. But we don't really need to treat the miasm yet. What does miasmatic theory say? When indicated remedies fail to act. We don't even know if any remedy is going to act because he's not taking anything yet. So let's start with this. You can review any day. You can review it in 2 days if you need to. Some people suppress straight away. They go, you know what? Right, I need to talk to you. I've seen things happen that way. I've seen people look at me and say, there's a load of bollocks. Forget it. Don't even talk to me again. We can't control what the patient will respond. We can only do what we do. So nor should we beat ourselves up trying to get it absolutely perfect. It doesn't exist. Is that okay? I think we've done this to death, pardon the pun. Shall we move on to the next case?
Yes, thank you so much, everybody.
No, thank you very much, Varsha. Really well done.
Thank you.
Final case. Mariana, are you here?
Yes, I'm around.
Hi, Mariana. Over to you.
Hello, everybody. I've got a patient who is 62. He is short, flabby. He is slightly overweight. He smokes. He wears glasses. He's got a clear complexion. He's a white Caucasian man. He's on his own business in the last 14 years. He's in agriculture, and he came with 4 main symptoms: pains in his lower back, internal hemorrhoids, high blood pressure, and feeling stressed, tired. He believes in homeopathy. He tried homeopathy before, and he wants to restore his sense of joy and doesn't want to be stressed anymore. He's feeling sorry for the fact that he lost time when he was a banker to establish good relationship with his own son, who lives now in Germany, and he wants to reestablish that by his grandson. He likes fresh air, and his mental emotional state at the moment is very depressed, irritable, angry, that he cannot do a lot of things. He just wants to sell his business and retire. But because of the economic situation, he does a lot of efforts to do it, but I don't think he is succeeding. He's been supported by his wife.
Hello.
I've lost her too.
Sorry.
Hi, Mariana, are you back?
Yeah, he's being supported by his wife financially, and he feels that he is not doing his job as a man. He's used Oram in the past, but I think he's more. He thinks of what the world is gonna tell about him. He's more worried about the outer impression. That's why he is pushing himself.
Now, isn't this interesting? We've just talked about a guy with his business failing from the other case. Now, no one knows about the case until they compile, right? And isn't it interesting how the two are almost linked in together? Almost like this case follows on from the other one.
No, actually, it follows from the first case where the abuse, suicidal. Then the second case is suicide. I mean, all three are related.
And yet they're all three of you from other sides of the world, different backgrounds, different customers, different patients. Isn't that interesting? So, right. So how's that for energy, bringing things together? Right, okay. Shall we go to the next slide?
Yeah, he's he lost his yeah, we can.
Okay.
He lost his dad when he was 13, and I think that is the central of all his problems, because he ever since he lost his dad, I don't think he had any example, male example in his life. So therefore, he grew up with trying to prove himself.
Okay.
And I think the whole, we're moving into analysis of his case, but
before we go into that then, Mariana, let's just let because everyone is seeing, this case, you took it, right? Everyone is seeing this for the first time. So I think this is a great opportunity today, based on the kind of flavor that we have of today's clinic. It'd be interesting to see what are we analyzing here. Anybody want to offer some suggestions, what the patient is showing us, telling us, and presenting to us, just based on this slide alone? Because this hones our skills. It doesn't mean we get it right. It doesn't mean we get it wrong. It helps us to think and funnel things down and look at pictures. So anybody want to volunteer some suggestions of what we're seeing here?
It's Veronica here.
Hi, Veronica.
So he's angry, he's drinking and smoking, so there's a high level of toxicity and liver's under the load.
Okay.
And he's got lower back problems, which would suggest, according to Louise Hay, lack of support, whether financial or emotional.
Okay.
Lower back is financial, upper back is emotional. So I think it's more financial support. Okay,
well, that's obvious because he said his wife is supporting him. So anybody else looking at it? Thank you for that, Veronica. That's jumping out the page at us. Anybody seeing anything else in addition to that?
Varsha here.
Oops, Varsha, Roger. I'll tell you what, Varsha, let's give Roger a chance to speak.
Yes.
Sure.
Welcome, Roger. Roger's talking from Spain.
All right. Hello. Can you hear me? Because my line is very, very weak.
Yes, we can, Roger. Fire away.
But, all right. Okay. I think that he's also quite destructive, no? So he's quite syphilitic, I would say.
Yeah. Based on what?
Well, on we could say his destructive habits.
Yes.
So that he's drinking and he's damaging himself.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
So I think that's something that we would have to bear in mind.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Roger. Varsha, you wanted to contribute as well?
I think he's got a sense of failure with his son, with his money, with taking money from his wife, with his business not doing good, financial, emotional failure. Okay.
Now, I'll tell you, anybody else want to contribute?
Couldn't digest his situation.
Hi, Jiva.
Hi.
Anything that this slide is showing us, because let's face it, we know nothing else other than this information. And if we were just given this information, what would we start to see? We don't have to conclude anything yet, but what kind of things are coming apparent based on this information being presented to us?
Because of his hemorrhages, internal hemorrhages, and swollen stuff and blood pressure and things like that, it's more like he's not presenting what his belief system or something is suppressed inside him and couldn't digest what he's going through in life, that sort of a thing, sir.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think that's absolutely brilliant, because internal hemorrhage is a way of us not digesting life, not being able to accept what's happening around us, because our colons, our intestines are a route of elimination. When that gets blocked, we're trying to get rid of toxins that are built up with us, even energetically. Okay, anybody else for anything else?
Hi, this is Kalyani here.
Hi, Kalyani.
Just looking at prefers fresh air, I see it a couple of times, and also timid, shy, maybe pulsatilla.
Brilliant. This is what we're saying, that let the patient show us and tell us who they are. So we're seeing hints of pulsatilla already. Fine. Anybody see any other kind of remedies coming to mind?
Just, I think, a lot of self-worth issues coming out.
Hi, Balchik. Yeah, okay. That's brilliant. So there's got this self-worth. We've got this timidity.
He feels a sense of failure, sad, of no good bond with his son. You know, just a lot of regrets, a lot of, you know.
Yeah. Does anybody want to venture forth anything about the calc-carb state of a person?
Malnourishment.
Malnourishment. Anything else? What is their state of mind for a calc-carb person?
Worry, financial worry, just worry.
I thought you said boring then, worry. Yeah, okay. Worrying, yes, they're worried about financial. They care what other people think. They're slightly fat, fair, flabby, slightly overweight. Clean and presentable, again, it's worrying what people think. A key hint for that was he had more status when he was a director of a bank. There's a chapter called Constitutions in Murphy's Repertory. And you got a banker and calc-carb will be there. Balchik, that's something you can relate to, knowing bankers in your life as well. So
definitely, thank you.
No, we've talked about this many times. So this person is worried about money, they're worried about finances, they're worried about status. Things like calc-carb and nux vomica come to mind. It doesn't mean it's the remedy, not at all. But it helps, once we learn about things, it helps remedies to come into our mind. Then we can ask further, then it allows us to probe to see if that remedy is more or less apparent as we learn more about the patient. But that's a brilliant skill to start putting remedies to mind. Yes, he's smoking, he's drinking. So we know the liver's gone. So there's a nux element. People who work hard often do things to excess. And if I've got someone who says I'm a moderate drinker, okay, he's probably drinking a bit. They always play it down when they're in front of a medic. But he also likes fresh air, because there's a contradiction there, because a calc-carb is chilly remedy. Pulsatilla is a warm remedy. So it would have been interesting to see how he was dressed. Now, for some of you, I think I share this. When patients come to see me, and if they come to me, I always have the radiators closed and the windows open. And therefore, if I've got a chilly person, they're going to walk and say, oh, it's cold. My napmios, nux vomica's, arsenicums, calc-carbs, they come in and they always complain. Can you close the window? Fine. If they're sulfur or pulsatilla, they won't give a damn. They won't even notice the windows open or the radiators off. It doesn't matter what climate's outside. So that's a good way just to see the behavior. And I got that from Marjorie Blackie's book, Classical Homeopathy. She's got a great way of describing patient pictures, and I learned a lot from that. Especially learned about arsenicum. I think it was page 38 in her book, about the arsenicum patient walks in and they start telling you their symptoms before they even shook your hand or sat down. She just listen. When they're done, they're off to go. Give them arsenicum and they're done. You don't even need to treat anything else. So sometimes it's as easy as that. So
what book is it?
Marjorie Blackie. I think it's called Classical Homeopathy, but I could be wrong. But I know the author's Marjorie Blackie. It's like a dark brownish, deep red. I'm a bloke. It's either dark reddish, deep brownish color.
Is it Blackie as a color, or Becky as a?
I think it's Blackie. I know someone's going to share that on the Ohana group at some point. So that if I have a picture of it, I'll send a snapshot of it. Okay, great little book, brilliant book. It's also fantastic because it deals with the natrums as a group, and it deals with the calcs as a group, how to differentiate between nat carb, nat mure, nat sulfur, etc. It does the same with the Kali group and the carbs. It's a brilliant little book, a little handbook. So I know I digress. So here, straight off this slide, we've got calc-carb and pulsatilla showing. We don't know anything else. So Mariana, we're going to go to your next slide, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
We might learn a bit more. Fire away.
So I think that he suffers from suppressed grief, unresolved. Obviously his lungs are stopping him from breathing. The cause is definitely, I do agree with everything said so far. He is angry, he is sad, he is thinking what the other people are thinking about himself, but equally he's a drinker, he's destructive, so he's psychotic miasm there. His parents, his mom also died of stroke, so there is inherited miasm there. I approached him as a whole patient. I decided that his physical, his trauma from losing his dad needs addressing, because if we manage to resolve that, it will be all his blood pressure and everything else will just follow. I forgot to say that he had a physical trauma as well, which affected his lower back, which he thinks that is the reason why he's having lower back problems. But I believe that's nothing to do with that. It's all to do with his worry about money. I did rubrics, and my rubrics were mainly mind. Sorry, Tom, could we?
Sorry, yeah. I was just trying to find your trauma here. Where am I looking?
Physical in the next page, I think it was the next slide. I think it was.
Here we go. Pain in
Yeah.
L5, L6 associated with old trauma. Okay,
Yeah.
but do we know when he had that trauma?
I think in the line it was about when he was in his 30s. In his we have his timeline.
I can do, but like I said, because it doesn't fit on the one slide, it's probably over on a page somewhere. If I try and do can you see what I'm doing here, people? Or no?
Yes.
Oops, I'll try to do this.
Yeah, we can see some.
Right, so if I slide up to the timeline, you can see this, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, so the timeline's there. Lost his father at the age of 13. Career takes off and becomes a director at 30 to 40. How old is he now? He's 62.
62.
Okay. Mid-40s, leaves the bank after redundancy. Lots of stress, sons leaves to study. Okay. And father's side, key issues, heart bypass and cancer. So we've got syphilitic and cancer.
Yeah.
Mother dies from stroke, syphilitic. Okay, so the syphilitic there, and as Roger and somebody else said, he's destroying himself with the cigarettes anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go
He's not doing anything good to his liver by smoking and by drinking. So the rubrics.
I'm going to try and expand it. Sorry, I'm just going to try and edit it live so we can probably see something here, but we can't even, it's not legible here, unfortunately. Let's see if it comes clearer. No, we can't read that. So can you
the rubrics are not clear at all.
Okay, so just talk us through the rubrics, please.
Yeah, Murphy, I don't know whether I can share that with this, if I can share it.
Well, let's talk through as a group then.
Okay.
We've got this space. What kind of rubrics, you don't have to share the actual screenshot, just talk through the rubrics you put
I
down.
picked up a mind, abandoned, forsaken feelings, ailments from, mind, grief, sorrow, general death of loved ones or friends, mind, alone, ailments from being alone, mind, death, general ailments from death of parents, mind, anxiety, business, about business, mind, suppressed skin diseases or hemorrhoids after mental, because he says that his hemorrhoids are affected by when he has financial troubles or when he's stressed.
Of course.
Back, aching, pain, lumbar, periodic pains, clinical, hypertension, high blood pressure, rectum, hemorrhoids, general internal, because he was specific about that they were internal, not external, and rectum, hemorrhoids, general, associated with back pain, because I do believe that probably it's to do with his second chakra, with his ability to be a man looking after himself, after his family, sorry. And that's why altogether there are 10 rubrics, which shows arsenicum, nux vomica, ignatia, calp, and sulfur. So I considered ars nux vomica. I didn't consider ignatia because he is not a weepy type. I didn't also this pulsatilla, you can see from the rubrication is very further down the line, but he's not a weepy type. He's a very much, I came in, I know exactly I need help, give me the remedy, I go away. So I picked up arsenicum is the type, nux vomica as well. So I decided to use both of them. Only both of them.
Let's see if we can view your prescription, sorry. Right, here we go. Let me try and... Yep, please keep talking. I'm just going to try and edit the slide so we can view it a bit better.
Yeah.
Nope, no, still can't see it. Okay, fire away.
Yeah, the prescription is arsenicum 30C every morning and nux vomica at night.
Okay, I'm just going to try and minimize this. Bear with me so we can see it. Okay. can you talk through the reasoning for your prescriptions?
He's a very arsenicum type of person. He's, as you say, he comes in, shakes her hands, sits down, tells you everything what you need to know, give me the remedy and I'll go away. He was even wanted to wait and get his remedy and walk away. And I said, no, I just need to think about this. I need to discuss it and then give it the remedy. So the fact that and then Nux vomica, because Nux vomica is again covered a lot of his hemorrhoids, indigestion, liver, most of his physical complaints were linked together with his mental state of the arsenicum. I thought that there will be a nice combination to go together.
Yeah, okay. Any comments from anybody else?
Ailments from toxicity.
Okay.
The ignatia that is in the key remedies, I'm not seeing in the prescription.
I don't think that he's an ignatia type because he's not very, he's a macho. Ignatia is a very female remedy. I don't think it'll suit him.
No, I'll agree with that. Ignatia, as we say, the keynotes of Ignatia are the S's: sitting, sighing, sobbing. He doesn't look like that kind of person.
No.
He's more of a get out my way, let me get on with it, give me what I need to get and get lost.
Yeah, exactly.
No mess, no fuss, no bullshit kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
So the two remedies are very interesting, what you've got here, arsenicum and Nux vomica. And what I want us all to do after today, and as I know we do it anyway, is to get more involved in the personalities of the remedies as well. Because the arsenicum and Nux vomica characteristics are very, very similar. They're no bullshit. They're straight to it. They're always in a hurry. Everything's fast. Everything's yesterday. Do it now. Haven't got time to wait. Live hard, play hard, work hard. Nux vomica through and through. Arsenicum, what does arsenicum do in addition to all of that? It causes destructive metabolism and affects the mucous membranes from mouth to anus. That's what arsenicum does. Why? It's a poison. But they're always jittery, edgy. They don't sit still. Arsenicum patient, if you see arsenicum patients, they don't sit still when they talk to you. Everything's moving. They walk around the room. They can't sit still. They've got things to do. And even you taking their case is an inconvenience to them, even though they come to see you. They can't be bothered with it. So when you start to know them that way, you think, okay, you're showing me exactly who you are. If we try and chase and cure every single tiny little ailment, like I said, the odd fingernail, the odd scratch behind the ear, we might think, yeah, okay, graphitis, silica. That's right. But the patient doesn't sit still. So they're showing us who they are. So sometimes we can be led down the garden path trying to do the micro treatments and thinking, here's the patient and the patient has the disease, which is the whole patient method. So both of your remedies are absolutely fine. You could even give Nux vomica 200 BD twice a day, and that would sort him out anyway. If you want to give the arsenicum, not a problem. These are preferences. So when we do the remedies, we should always, we do it in our cases, we always say, can you justify it? Read, compare, differentially diagnose, differentiate the remedies. So they're very good remedies for both of them. And Baljeet will tell you things that sometimes you get arsenicum people who underneath are actually quite calc carby. So we have people that way, that they're quite calc carb as a constitution, but fundamentally they have become arsenicum by virtue of the job they do. I've got to do things. I like my status and get on with it. But calc carb was always worried about people, what people think, which is why he goes back on, I used to be a director. And there's another remedy that combines calc carb and arsenicum called calc arsenicum. Have I pronounced that right? I just call it calc ars. And that's also worth looking at. And Jan Scholten, in his book Homeopathy and Minerals, often talks about combining the minerals together. Nat arsenicum, calc arsenicum, etc. Because if you've got similarities of two major remedies, combine them. If we think that's a load of bollocks, remember we actually use calc phos all the time, and that's calc carbon phosphorus, and we use it as a major bone remedy. So this absolutely works, and that is applying homeopathy practically. I think, yeah, brilliant prescription, very simple to do. I like the way you've dealt with it. I'm waiting to hear from anybody else who wants to give any other suggestions.
Sorry, Sam, did you say that Nux vomica to be 200C or arsenal? I didn't.
Right.
I
No,
didn't hear.
I said you could give Nux vomica 200C twice a day.
Yeah, that's
There's
correct.
nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the prescription you've given. There's never a right or wrong way in homeopathy. They're just guidelines and suggestions. They all work. The repertory will tell you what's indicated, and you give the ones that are there, based on how they match the patient as well as the symptoms. If you said he was busy, he's doing that. They both fit really, really well.
Thank you.
You could ask them about if they like hot water, because the key thing for arsenicum, they'll sip water, and they quite sip warm water, hot water. They don't drink cold water. I've got a friend, I've known him 25 years. He comes to my house, some black coffee, and he'll have it piping hot. I've given him ashwagandha. I said, you're a coffee addict. He needs 3 cups of coffee to get going in the morning. He's arsenicum through and through. But he's tall, he's dark-skinned. So you think it's phosphorus and sulfur as well. But right now, when he wants his coffee, sip, 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 boiling hot water, arsenicum. Works very hard. Corporate guy, director, same sort of thing. So sometimes just asking them, and they're the little nuances in the remedy when we get to know it, the modalities, the affinities, what they like. It helps us to differentiate between 2 or 3 remedies when the 2 or 3 remedies are quite similar. Is he a chilly person? Is he a hot person? Do we know?
Yeah, he's a chilly person. He, although his wife prefers to have 23 degrees, and I think it's somewhere written, he prefers going outside in fresh air. And if it was up to him, he would have 18 degrees in the house. But the other thing that I also, because he's been a smoker, I prescribed vitamin C. I put in the prescription vitamin C. As well in higher doses, because I think that his heart is quite depleted from vitamin C. Also, his liver is definitely needs quite a lot of support. So I went for a good multivitamin for him with a lot of magnesium and zinc. I even think about tissue salts number 9, which is magnesium at night, because as you say, because he is chilly, he prefers, he mentioned that he likes like a hot drink before he goes to bed, like a hot, not hot, warm milk or tea. So I thought that tissue salts in the evening, magnesium, calphos will be, calcat will be better diluted in his water at night rather than as a pill. So that's what I was thinking, as a complementing his or supporting his liver.
Okay. Now, when someone's smoking, look at the toxicity chapter and see what effect smoking has on you, right? It's full of nicotine, it's full of tar, it's damaging his lungs. So we know the person we're treating, right? He's got these issues. Arsenicum and Nux vomica are both good, because arsenicum is also poison. So it does help for ailments of poisoning, which is tobacco. When he's drinking alcohol, it's affecting his liver, fine. But then what does alcohol do? It depletes the body of vitamin C, depletes the body of zinc. And as a man, you definitely need zinc and selenium and the B vitamins. So we can give the vitamins in as separate standalone vitamins, or we can give them an all-in-one. And if he's in the UK, you can easily give him the Inessa multivitamin, which ticks all the boxes that he needs to replenish himself. Because his lifestyle is a maintaining cause and an obstacle to cure. Normally when we drug detox somebody, we give them Nux vomica anyway. So we know that Nux vomica is absolutely key for this person, irrespective of any other remedy. He's a Nux vomica personality type. Work hard, play hard. Work hard, play hard, destroy myself. Everything to excess, smoke, drink, blah, blah, blah. Right? So there's elements of that there. Nux vomica is also great for constipation, hemorrhoids, piles, as is arsenicum, as are another 10 or 15 other remedies as well. So that ticks them boxes to support him. You could consider something like milk thistle, which is great for the lungs, the liver, and the kidneys. And we talked about this earlier, Berberis vulgaris, which is also great for the liver and the kidneys. So they have a great affinity for these. The Berberis vulgaris also has the added benefit that we can help prevent gallstones in the future. If he's got too much uric acid, we don't know if he's a heavy meat eater. If he goes with that lifestyle, it just keeps everything fluid. He needs to drink a lot more water as well. This guy's not going to be having kale and kimchi and having bloody green. You can just see it's a Nux vomica. They don't do that. It's not going to be his diet style, is it? So even to tell someone like this, and say, look, I know what I'm doing. I'm 62. I know what I don't need to be told. That's that mindset of this person. So a good once a day multivitamin that covers everything would be great help. Because also being a bloke is quite practical. Here's your once a day vitamin. It's keep you covered. We can't make him stop, nor has he asked that I really want to give up alcohol or cigarettes. That's part of his lifestyle. And if you read upon the Nux Vomica, that's exactly what they say. They drink to excess, they smoke to excess, they work hard, they're successful in business, they're worried about business, blah, blah, blah. So he fits that type all around, just based on the 2 slides that you've shared with us. So, yeah, good. Anybody else with any comments on this case?
I can see there are 3 questions in Q&A.
Okay, I'll come to that in a minute. Because he's working hard, you could also support the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands you can support. And because he's gaining a bit of weight, his thyroid needs stimulating. So something like ashwagandha, which is an adaptogenic herb, which helps the adrenal glands and the thyroid. That would help. We don't know if he's a coffee drinker or not, if he's living on adrenaline, which is coffee. A couple of cups of coffee to get him started, or 3 or 4 cups throughout the day. We don't know. It's always good to ask our patients, how much tea or coffee do you drink? Because they're stimulants. Why do we need stimulants? Because our body is not producing our own adrenaline to keep us stimulated naturally. So the adrenals will be shot to pieces at some point. They don't think they're shot to pieces because it's a lifestyle. It's just who they've become. It's not who they are, which is why when we teach the layers method, we say this is a constitutional layer and this is the fundamental layer. So there's things to look at there. Ashwagandha might be considered for this person as well. If they're still working hard and they're doing a lot of brain work, Califos, it's not just for this case, it's obviously to share with all of us on the audience. It's a great nerve nutrient. I've got a lot of patients, who are barristers, lawyers, etc. I always give them Califos because they're ever doing their legal briefs and presenting in court and doing whatever they do to close a case. So they work hard, working through the night, loads and loads of coffee. Nux Vomica, Califos is almost a staple for them, just by the virtue of the job that they do. They're burning nervous energy all the time, as well as adrenal support. And if they don't like adrenal support, ashwagandha. Because the way I tell them, I say, here's your medicine and here's your herb. I said, the herb will enrich your organs and this will stop you fucking up your life. And they love it. So sometimes we don't always just give them in pills. Sometimes they say, right, I've got the herb, it's going to enrich my nerves. Yes, because they're living on a pret-a-manger sandwich, a Costa coffee. They're not even eating properly. So we've got to do our bit for them. Well, I'll shut up now. Any other questions before we answer the questions?
Hi, Jiva again. Because somebody is not opening and talking, can't they be in a shock mode like Arnika state?
Say again?
You know, this particular guy, you said he's an arsenicum type because he doesn't want to really talk through stuff. He just want everything to be pretty straightforward. Come in, do it and go, sort of. Can't
Right.
it be he's in a shock Arnika state? That's why he doesn't want to really accept what's going on and sit and talk about it.
Brilliant observation. He could be. We don't know.
I don't think so, because he I think he was quite open about any questions. He didn't, sometimes when you go through the questionnaire and there are people that you feel that they're uncomfortable with certain private questions, he wasn't like this. So it's not that he is not wanting to share, he simply wants to he went through quite methodically through every question, answering quite straight to the point without any deviations, no examples by the side. He asked me how long it's gonna take, and he was comfortable, and within that time, and he was fine. So that means to me he is organized, strict to the point, he wants to give you the information. There you are. This is on a plate. I don't think that he's a sort of person that he doesn't want to share information.
Okay.
But Arnika is more of, are you okay? Yes, I am. And the fact that he came to you for help, he's
okay, fine.
not that, is he?
Yeah. See, the fact he came to you for help is one of these, look, I need something to do. Just get on with it, treat me. So he wants to get done because it's bothering him. So yeah, that's a good observation. Now, if we look at this a little bit further here, what we're seeing here, okay, he's timid and shy. That's fine. A lot of our Seneca people are. They're not always really boisterous. They just get on with things. He's got a bit of stuff with the old trauma. Okay, we understand that. He's got his hemorrhoids. Now, they're indicative of not doing this in life, not being happy with things. His blood pressure's high. It's to be expected. He's stressed. People automatically think, okay, blood pressure and apnea. Not necessarily. If his blood pressure's high, the system is in adrenal glands. It's called the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. It's called the RAA system. You can look it up. It's probably going to be on EndoWeb. We can talk about it separately offline. If you want a webinar on it, we can do the hormones. Not a problem. But his adrenal glands produce something called aldosterone, renin, and angiotensin. Angiotensin is a clue in the name. It causes tension in your blood vessels. It tightens up your blood vessels, causes blood pressure to rise. So it's not always natmure, but then natmure is sodium chloride. Sodium is a salt that's absorbed into the blood vessels, which causes the vessel to contract, sodium channels and calcium channels. This is why when we say we're given sodium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, selenium, these are minerals. We always got to think about giving minerals to our minerally depleted. The adrenal gland job is to help us to deal with life. They get their kickstart from the hypothalamus pituitary, but they also respond to stresses in the body as well. They produce 22 different hormones, glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, the sex hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, etc., renin, angiotensin, and many, many others. And even glucagon, which is one that, one blank, works in cohort with insulin. Glucagon raises your blood glucose, insulin reduces your blood glucose. So all these things help to control our body. So when he's got blood pressure, we know that his adrenals are working overtime. So we know we need to give adrenal support. We also know he needs calcium and magnesium. So this is where a good supplement would help. Ionic magnesium or magnesium citrate would definitely help. He's also over 60. He's going to be needed more and more important because magnesium also protects the heart. So that is also as a mineral needed here. The adrenals we covered with ashwagandha or the adrenal support. So you have two options. Either works, but like I said, with my patients, they quite like the fact they've got a physical herb and then they've got their homeopathic medicines. And I can hear Ellen saying, when I was a student, just chuck it in a pill and give it to them. Whatever your preference, there's no right or wrong. They're just options. So that's what we're seeing here. Here we've got here, okay, he's irritable and depressed with problems with the business. If we look up a repertory, mind worried about business, calc, carbon, vomica come to mind. So we know that the remedies are right. When we reanalyze the case like this, it reinforces that the remedy selection was the right kind of selection to go for. Okay. Okay, no responses, right.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's okay. Sometimes it says also here, his wife helps him sometimes to cover the cost of debt. That's good, they're partners, that happens. And he feels insignificant. Now, isn't that important? Because he's got a sense of pride in there as well. So that's something to look at. He feels insignificant. And that's probably what he's having difficulty stomaching. Because the other question is, he's got internal hemorrhoids. How long has he had them? Recently or for ages?
He's had that since for the last 10, 14 years. So I associated that with the fact that he stopped working for the bank and he went to work for himself. So, and I know working for yourself, because I've done it for a number of years, is the constant pressure of whether you will have money enough to pay all your staff. So that is a constant worry that
Right.
sits into your body. So and also the fact that it's internal, it's not external. It's external is when you have emotional worry that you would like to push out to the world. No, internal hemorrhoids are the ones that how I'm going to support all the people that rely on me. So there is a feeling of responsibility there. So that's why I thought that arsenicum, I thought of calcarb initially, but then as I was talking to him, I was more and more convinced that he was a Nux vomica, and I expected Nux vomica to be on the first place, and I was surprised to be arsenicum. But then when I went and differentiated between them, I thought, well, they complement each other so well, including his physical, including the hemorrhoids. So that's why I kept a minimum.
Yeah. It's a good choice. You've got good rationale and you've thought through the process correctly. There's a number of other remedies you can consider, but that's not the case of it. It's just say, well, I'm going to go with this based on what I believe. That's fine. So it's absolutely fine what you've done, and you're absolutely right.
My question here, Sam, is would I prescribe it for a month or for a shorter period of time? How do I go about the length of the prescription?
I would go for a month, right? Because this is a chronic issue. Go for a month and review them in a month. But then ask, keep up to date and just say, well, let me know how you're doing.
Do I check up on him, say, in a week's or 2 weeks' time and see whether the 200C would work, or should we go up? Because I've read last night.
Okay. That is your own arsenicum tendencies to want to know right now. Let the patient tell you. Book an appointment and just check up there. You don't need to check up on him. He's a grown man.
Yeah.
Have faith that your remedies will work.
One other question I have, I read something the other day about the ascending and descending doses.
Yes.
And the ascending ones will go to the mind and descending will go to the physical. So because that's, he lost his dad quite when he was young, so there are quite a few years that passed. Would I make an experiment and do 200C and then go up? What do you think of the strategy?
You can do, but at the moment you haven't dealt with something called the layers method, right? Because that's further back in time. You can go back in time, and there's ways to address potencies that way. If you want to attack something that will happen way back in someone's life, that's something that's in the mind, right? So therefore you want an M potency. And I've often dealt with things like 10 M's and 50 M's to do with people who've had trauma 20, 30, 40 years ago. I'll give you a case in point. I had a 37-year-old woman who had psoriasis. She had it since she was 7. She's fat, fair, flabby, etc., chubby, right? And so calc carb was a remedy for the psoriasis. So I know that for sure. Then I asked her, I said, what caused it? She don't know. We went through the timeline, did her timeline. She fell off a bike when she was 7 years old and fell on her elbow. And the psoriasis started on her elbow. When she came to see me, it was all over her back, on her chest, on her body. And she goes, I've just got married and I'm scared of being intimate with my husband because my body's covered in scales to protect it. We talked about psoriasis being a protector, and layer of the skin protects you against trauma. We know she had the trauma there. I gave her Arnica 50M on Saturdays, Sundays as an intercurrent, whilst I gave her calc carb as a constitution. And she was a warrior. She goes, I can't make a decision. I can't say no. I doubt myself all the time, blah, blah, blah. And she was fat, fair, flabby. So I knew calc carb was a remedy for her, 30C every day. But the Arnica is what just took that away, edge off it. And I saw her 6 weeks later, and it cleared up quite dramatically. And she had a little bit left on her upper chest, on her upper back, but the arms had cleared up. Another 3 months later, totally cleared. So that's when you use a deep potency to go back deep in time, if that's the case. Right now, but then what we're taught as well, Ian Watson says in a lot of his books, he goes, where is the energy tied up right now? In his hemorrhoids. So you're not going to touch something way back until we've dealt with this. And we cover that in the layers method. You unravel a case backwards, Herring's law of cure. We level it backwards, but right now, this is where the energy is tied up in his hemorrhoids. Once you get rid of that, then you can deal with the underlying. Because if they're not dealt with, these symptoms will come back again. So we know the cause of the symptoms, and that's when we go back to our theory in our cases. What needs to be treated? Can you cure it now? Yes, but right now, he's been tied up here. There's a lot of mental emotional, but there's a lot of work issues. And Nux vomica and arsenicum are also great major polycrest remedies. So they will do your job for you. After you dealt with that and he's opened up, he might open up and deal with the grief. If it's suppressed grief and he doesn't, nat mure might be a remedy later on. We don't know because we're not there yet with the patient. We're right here. So let's not try not to predetermine the outcome either. Let's let the patient take us on his journey and we will support him every step of the way. Hopefully that makes sense.
Question.
Yes.
So I'm trying to put things in perspective when we can treat physical ailments, even though they may have emotional causes, because you've just said right now the energy is tied up in hemorrhoids. The grief may pop up later. We'll treat it later. How do you know when to treat it now? Because in some other cases, you tell me we can't treat the hemorrhoids now until we deal with the causation because they'll keep coming back.
Right. That's where the art of it comes in. Now, we've got this patient here. He's a practical man. If we don't deal with his hemorrhoids, he's going to say, stop worrying about my mind, sort my bloody arse out. He'll talk like that because he's practical. He's nux vomica arsenicum. That's his characteristic. He hasn't got time to deal with the stuff way back when. here's my hemorrhoid, this is what I'm coming with, let me sort this out. So we help them along the way, knowing that there's a deeper cause that we want to work on anyway. We can work on it simultaneously if we use the layers method. If we're not using that method, we can work on this right now. We've got a part patient method with a bit of mental emotionals, because actually the cause of this hemorrhoids is also mental emotional. But it's not the grief from his father that's causing this. It's the inadequacy, lack of not doing this, the pride in the job. They're the things that are causing this right now. Once we remove that, then he's ready to deal with the grief. The grief was not the cause of this. It's a factor that led along his pathway here. 10, 15 years ago, he left his business to start on his own. So the constant worry about finances, is the money coming in? That is uppermost right now. And that's what I say, where is the energy right now? It's here. We can deal with that 15, 20, 30-year-old trauma in a bit. And it might be as easy as next month. He might say, right, my hemorrhoids are gone. I'm absolutely fine. Right, bang. Now let's deal with the trauma and help him unsuppress that. But we're not there yet. And if we don't treat his hemorrhoids right now, he's going to say, right, homeopathy is a lot of rubbish. I'm not bothered. He is bothered because he said he's got trust in homeopathy. So you know you've got a patient there who will work with you through the process. So when we work with them, we say, I'm going to help you on this. I know there's other underlying stuff that I want to deal with. That's for your next follow-up appointment. He's going to say, fine. So we're working with them. We don't have to explain our theory to them, but we tell them that we're aware of what's going on with them, and we're going to help them through all of it. Because they'll say, right, deal with the here and now because it's really pissing me off. It's getting on my nerves. Good, we will. And the Nux and the Arsenicum will definitely deal with that. Hope that answers that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or observations on this from anybody? No? Anybody else? I'm just going to see if we've got any questions coming up. I can't seem to find it. Yep, Calc Carb, a man who needs security. Absolutely. So please, you know, when we look at our remedies, we should always look at there's a little spiel about the personality. Before we go into the mind, it describes the remedy. And this is why I do like Murphy's Materia Medica. After we've gone to head through note and it says follows while and antidoted by, he's got another page or two quite often when he talks about a lot of stuff. And because it's not in bold print, we tend to ignore it. Sometimes you find lots of hidden gems just in them pages. The devil really is in the detail. So every time we look at a remedy, we can use the same remedy for 7 different cases, for 7 different things, because we're picking out elements of the remedy that fit the patient. So I want to say thank you to all 3 of you and to everybody else to contribute. I think it's been very informative. Everyone's put their thoughts forward, which is what the learning environment's about. Hopefully we've got lots of other ways of looking at cases now. So before I close, any other questions, comments, or observations at this stage? Please don't hang up just yet. How do we feel about having another clinic in 2 weeks' time?
I think that's a good idea, doing less number of cases.
Yeah.
Periodically.
Yeah, I think because then we can get our teeth into the cases better. Rather than just trying to whiz through them, we can actually take time to analyze them. Okay.
That'll be the 20th of June, folks.
2 weeks' time, possibly. Thank you, Francesca. Francesca, I had a couple of people ask me questions, so I'm going to hand over to Francesca. Please stay on the line, because when we had a physical clinic, people paid to attend clinic, etc. Francesca, I think we decided at the moment we're not charging any students for this at all, are we?
I think that was still outstanding for discussion.
Right, okay, so we'll have a chat about this and see how we go.
There is one thing, Tom, there is one thing that has come up, and that is that students seeing patients, that the usual patient fee of £25 should be going to the Angel Clinic bank account.
Okay.
Does everybody have those details, those bank account details?
Yes, well, I think you need to share that, Francesca, because there's things like that that enable us to conduct things like this without us incurring the cost for it. So, you know, as we said, the patients help us do that with these cases. You have your own cases offline that you make your money from as students, which is fine. But when the case is here, they should be paid into that account. I think, Francesca, if you give that guidance separately, that would help as well.
Okay.
And you and I can discuss that at a later point as well. But
absolutely.
Okay, so what we'll do, we'll plan for another 2-week follow-up. However, I'm going to stay open to that, because if other people, I know Veronica sent a case, I know Roger's keen to submit a case and discuss one, I know Nihad wants to discuss a case or two. So please keep them coming, because it's learning for everybody. And if we have to do this every week, I don't mind putting the time in. And as we get better and better, we'll be able to come to the conclusions quicker. But it's the forum that the learning takes place in. So I don't really want to rush it either. But hopefully you found it useful. We'll hang up now. Any questions, comments, put them on the group or send me a personal one of what you think we can improve. I'm all ears. Thank you very, very much for attending, everybody.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.